Clearly, while I'm in the loading screen is the best time to load this
Hail,
in.
traveler.
And I just realized I didn't empty my inventory before I started this stream. I am intelligent. So, greetings everyone, I am Dr. J, and I need to do some inventory management, so I may as well talk about what I'm doing streaming this on an early morning, or at least what's probably an early morning to some. It's around 8:45 a.m. where I am right now, and I'm used to waking up this early anyway, even on Sundays, because for whatever reason, it doesn't matter how late I stay up. If I wake up at around... Well, it doesn't matter how late I stay up. If my body has an opportunity to inflict misery on me by waking me up, it will. So, unfortunately for me, that means I have to I'm effectively forced to be a morning person, and as a result, it's less fun streaming, if I'm gonna be up anyway. So, let us give a demonstration as to why you never use the Unity engine, or really shouldn't use the Unity engine, because who in their right mind uses C# for a backend on a programming language when you have to do inventory management like this? I'll grant you that the Unity engine makes sense for something like Hollow Knight, where it works really well, honestly. But, we're gonna be here a while. I don't know if you can hear my mouse clicking. I've got a noise gate in place, so probably not. Still not to the end of this. Still not to the end. Yeah, okay. You know what? I'm thinking for now, what I'll do is I'll only focus on weapon, on equipable items, so that we can actually carry on with the day. So, I guess, what's the plan for this stream? Well, I think the main thing is that I need to head back to Defiance Bay and continue progressing the story there. That's my thinking at this point, is that my time will be best spent worrying about that. As for what the rest of the day will look like, honestly, I'm just trying to think through. Because there's honestly a lot of quests that I can see to back in Defiance Bay, so I suspect just seeing to that will take up a considerable amount of time. We'll keep one of the champion spears. But honestly, there's so many weapons in here that I doubt I could reasonably get through all of them, so... Come on, you. I clearly thought ahead. And I'm totally not tired. Well, at least it's going a little faster now that it's not having to reposition everything. Wait, went a little too overboard on that one. Okay. And I guess we'll just have that be all that we worry about for now. Now, need to get back to Defiance Bay. I mean, just looking at the journal that we've got here, there's just so much to see to. And a lot of it pertains to what's going on in Defiance Bay. So the sooner we set out and start taking care of that, the better off we'll be. Although, according to the game, we're in Act 2, and as far as I can tell, there's
Walls need some work before this place.
Yeah, I know. You've just said that before. Are we gonna get those generic lines literally every time? Probably. Alright. I guess... We'll head back to Copper Lane first. My thinking there is that we can go ahead and turn in the scroll quest and deal with whatever consequences arise from that. And then we can go have some fun dealing with everybody else. Let's see, where is everybody? Shouldn't take too long to get there. After we've resolved this, we can go ahead and start seeing to the rest of the rest of Defiance Bay. And there is a lot to check out in that regard. A lot to check out in that regard. Alrighty. Head this way. 5.
Hail, traveler.
I found the scroll, but Whale asked me to hide it again. She gives you a long, stern look. I'd call anyone else a liar with a story like that, but coming from you... She squints behind her thick spectacles. There is a certain logic after all, and if you've served Whale, then you've served me too. Yeah, that was why I went with that move. I figured she'd understand. She presents you with a folded section of fabric. Whale is both a keeper and a discoverer of secrets. May this hood aid you in revealing what is obscured and keep you hidden from those who wish you harm. Footpad's hood. I'll have to check on that. You find a key in your palm. You are also free to visit the Elder Archives and take whatever books or scrolls you find out in the open. Spreading and circulating new mysteries is part of our service to the obscured. Alrighty then. I guess I'm free to wander. Animancy in the modern age. That could be useful. I mean, that was and still is. Ooh, wow. Pretty high lore requirements. Life and Discoveries of Pangrim. Oh! Theorems of Pangrim.
Hey.
Is there anything? Let's see. Missives of the Hand Occult. Fine Journal of Jones. Man, there is a lot of lore stacked in here. So, I'm trying to think, what does Adair need to see to? To the Records Archive. Let's see, where is that? In the Ducal Palace. Okay,
Sure.
This is the place then. Alrighty then. So in case we want to go meandering through there at all, we've got the option. Okay. I figured that would be the resolutions, but glad to see that it worked out then. So, next on the chopping block. Making a little too much noise, apparently. Actually, I'm surprised. Actually, how long does it say on the stronghold that we've got? Okay, so it was 2 days for the curio shop. So, should I go to First Fires or Brackenbury first? I feel like First Fires will have a considerable amount of... You know what? I want to see to what Adair's interest is in the Ducal Palace. I feel like that'll be the most interesting thing to... Well, the most interesting thread to pull on. At least to start out. Alright, shouldn't need fast mode while I'm looking around. Actually, while I'm thinking about it, there was also... Yeah, Rogue Knight, so Osric. Okay, so the Crucible Keep, huh? So what's this? Ducal Palace, Valen Embassy, Temple of Woedica, the Crucible Keep. Well, let's go to the Ducal Palace first. I feel like that'll be the most interesting threat.
Politics, infighting, greed, and a shrine to Margaret as well. Her clergy belongs there.
What is it? I'm looking for a neighborhood with a tower. It's near a cemetery. Best you stop looking then. The place you want is Heritage Hill. You can see the tower over the district walls out that way. The Justicar points to the northwest, but something happened there. They don't let people in anymore, and none of the knights want to be posted anywhere close to it. Steer clear if you know what's good for you. Where are the mad kept in Defiance Bay? Only place around here that takes them is Brackenbury's Sanitarium. I've heard they can treat your soul there, take the madness away. But there's just as many stories coming out of that place that'll chill your blood. There's a man, if you want to call him that, Ethilmora there. He's head warden. If you're visiting or checking yourself in, he's the one to talk to. Undying heritage, so what's that related to? Ah yes, the Acolyte showed me a vision of an ancient tower in a derelict district of Defiance Bay. Okay, so that's a main thread. Okay, so that's two-sided. Interesting. Altacore. Oh, right, I need to resolve that as well.
Gods keep you.
The young woman wears a simple but well-tailored uniform. She watches the comings and goings around her with quiet attention. Any news to share, or are you just here to see the Ducal Palace? What's the Ducal Palace? It's the seat of the government here in Defiance Bay. This is where Duke Edmeth Hadret declared freedom from Adiran rule some 150 years ago. She lowers her voice and grins. It's also a hotbed of regional politics. Trust me, the gossip you'll hear beats whatever you'll find at any tavern or brothel in the city. Ah, Deerwood politics. It changes too quickly to be worth keeping up with. Better to strike up conversations in the taverns than try to loiter inconspicuously in the palace corridors. Looking for news? Who are you? I'm a page here at the palace. I deliver messages and run errands for the Duke and his advisors. The pay's not great, but I can't think of a better introduction to politics. What goes on in here? She laughs. Where to start? We've got meetings, public hearings, and ceremonies, and that's just the stuff that happens out in the open. She leans a little closer. This is where the Duke and his key advisors work, so there's always someone bartering for a favor. Unfortunately, I'm not at liberty to talk about that side of things. But if you want the official version, she gestures counterclockwise around the palace. We have a shrine devoted to Magrin, official records, and chambers for public hearing and council meetings. Tell me about the Shrine of Magrin. It's a symbol of Magrin's protection of Defiance Bay. She's represented the revolutionary spirit of the Deerwood ever since independence, and her involvement in creating the Godhammer bomb only affirmed her importance to us. She scratches her neck. That's also where the first of the sacred fire burns, but Firga, the tranquil ardent, has had trouble keeping them lit. What kind of records are stored here? Mostly dull official stuff. Census counts, tax records, militia registers. Now I keep my distance. I got curious one day and got drafted into reshelving half of the records. Oh, worst day of my life. Is there a hearing going on right now? Sure is. Duke Aver's been meeting with some of the city leaders for weeks now, trying to figure out how to address the legacy. The whole business is terribly secret though. I tried to sit in the gallery during my lunch break one day and got turned away. But a lot of talk concerns Animancy, so there's good reason they're keeping the meeting behind closed doors. The legacy? Widewind's legacy. That's what a lot of people call the Rash of Hollowborn. The theory that owes that its punishment for meddling in Animancy. Why is Animancy so controversial? Where to begin? Traditionalists think it's a crime against the gods. There's no question that poking around its souls is risky, but the more progressive elements believe it's our only shot at restoring healthy births. And it doesn't help matters that Animancy research often involves old Ingwithan relics that were illegally looted from ruins in Ein Glanfath. She makes a quick twitching motion with her index and middle fingers. What are Hollowborn? She raises an eyebrow. You really are fresh from the road. Hollowborn are children born without souls. They often don't live for very long, and those that do have generally received some kind of treatment from the Animancers. So what do you think about Animancy? Me? I think the real danger of Animancy is confusing a real scholar with an expensive fake. We get a new case here every day. Some poor couple in a gift or copper lane who spent every copper they had on a miracle cure for their unborn child. It never works. Breaks your heart, but there's usually nothing we can do for them. I see. Anyway, the legacy is what politicians have all been whispering about lately. Tell me about the current Duke. That would be Avar Wolfgren. Don't let the title fool you, though. Our dukes have been elected since independence. Some find Duke Avar rather coarse. He's a frontier noble. Personally, I think a rough and tumble type is just what Defiance Bay needs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then. Anything interesting? Nah, bad idea. Shrine of Magrin. Hall of Records. This ought to be interesting.
Gods keep you.
The woman's head is bowed as her lips move in prayer. Just as you approach, you catch her glimpsing at the statue near her. She notices you and forces a smile. Praise be to Magrin and welcome to her temple. How may I be of service? You seem upset. What's wrong? Her shoulders slump. This is about the fires, isn't it? She puts a hand on your shoulder. They're just symbols. You can't put your faith in them. The fires? The sacred pyres all around town. You must have seen the statues of the goddess around the city, holding up empty braziers. I've kept them burning steadily for 15 years, but I haven't been able to conjure them for months now, and people need to see them more than ever these days. What does that mean? It's my devotions and prayers that keep them lit, but lately when I try to pray, all I can think about are the hollowborn all over the city, the grieving families, the refugees. How could Magrin allow us to suffer like this? What strength do we gain from a soulless child? Durance grunts with disdain. What strength do we gain from adversity? From trial and test? The fires don't wither because she lacks in faith. They wither because she does not understand how to be faithful to a whore. A whore wants neither praise nor devotion. A whore wants to be compensated for her services, and Magrin is paid in pleasure and pleasured in sweet and struggle and pain. This mewling imbecile is unworthy of Magrin's womanly heart. And this has shaken your faith? She nods, running her hand through her hair. But I believe Magrin may be speaking to me again. She frowns and casts a quick glance in your direction. Lately I've been seeing visions. A place in the wilderness with pools filled with sunbursts of color. Strange falls that seem to rise to the heavens even while they splash into the earth. She raises her hand as if framing an image of her vision. And behind the falls is a cave, filled with fire and heat and danger, and some tokens of my goddess. I know there's something there, but where it is or how I'd get there, she shakes her head. I've been meaning to ask around at the expedition hall to see if anyone recognizes the description. To be honest, though, I don't know what I'd do even if I found the place. Worthless, like so many of Magrin's flock, afraid of her god's tests. If Magrin speaks to her, it is to hasten an end to a hypocrite's life, and this vision is surely a death trap for the weak. I'd like to know more about the temple here. Magrin is the most revered god among us dear Woodens, so it's no surprise that her temple is part of the ducal palace. Her fires symbolize trials, revolutions, and the blazing of new paths, all of which are important to us. She gestures to the statue. This is the first of the sacred pyres. When this is lit, so are the rest around the city. Something else? What's the significance of the sacred pyres? They symbolize Magrin's power and guidance, and right now the people of Defiance Bay need to be assured of her presence. Our neighbors in the Valen Republic see us as superstitious, but we're just sensitive to the signs and warnings of the gods. Cinders of Faith, huh? Travel to the cave from Virga's vision. Someone at the expedition hall.
Hey there.
Okay, that might be worth exploring. Now let's check out these Hall of Records for Adair. Chancellor Warren. Oh boy, plenty of people to speak to. Thank you for coming, Eleanor. I've been trying to track you down for some time. This is Marshal Forwin. Earl Badamar's military advisor. He will serve as a witness for this proceeding. He gestures at the man next to him. Well met, Road Warden. Your reputation precedes you. I admit you've created a bit of stir throughout the nobility with your reclamation of Caed Nua. Most are still not sure what to think of you. What's this about? The legitimacy of your claim to Caed Nua is in question. Earl Badamar has issued a ruling on the matter. Caed Nua was abandoned for over a century, and I've claimed the land through strength of arms. My claim is legitimate. If there were no other claimant, you would be correct. Unfortunately, that is not the case. All will be made clear once Lord Gathman arrives. Do you have any questions for me while we wait? Tell me about Earl Badamar. Earl Badamar comes from an esteemed line of lords that rose to prominence after the War of Defiance some 150 years ago. The Deerwood consists of several earldoms. The Badamars govern the northern earldom known as the Grasp. As to the current Badamar, he is as fine a man as I know. It is an honor to serve him. Tell me more about the Grasp. The Grasp is now the largest of the 7 earldoms after it consumed the pre-war earldom of Yenwood. It encompasses notable settlements such as New Haomar, Garen's Grasp, Gilded Vale, and of course, Caed Nua. Yenwood? When the Deerwood was a mere colony of Adir, it was divided into 9 earldoms. When the Adirans were defeated and ultimately driven out, 2 of the earldoms were absorbed and borders were adjusted. The Yenwood was one such earldom. What do you know of Gathbin? While I've met him but once, it was ample time to determine the character of Lord Arldur Gathbin, or Arlidur? Lord Arlidur Gathbin, or lack thereof. He is descended from an old Adiran line that predates the War of Defiance. His great-grandfather, Ranan Gathbin, was the Earl of Yenwood during the war. That is, until he was stripped of his lands and driven from the Deerwood. Do you know which way Earl Badamar has ruled? I'm sorry, my lord, I do not. The Earl's decree is sealed. What was that about Road Warden? The one who rules Caed Nua on behalf of the Earl of Yenwood is traditionally known as the Road Warden. Your position might not be entirely official, yet, but the title is an appropriate form of address. The Marshal nods and smiles. In fact, that blade you carried was forged by the very first Road Warden. He gestures at the sword at your side. I've heard that the Whispers of Yenwood is only ever found by those meant to rule Caed Nua. Oh, so there was actually a benefit in going digging around the basement for that sword. Interesting. I'm glad I decided to do that before coming here. That was serendipitous. Your timing is impeccable. Here comes Lord Gathbin now. This ought to be interesting. An opulently dressed man strides toward the Chancellor, his sandy hair trailing him like a banner caught in a light breeze, boot heels echoing throughout the hall. An elven woman with cropped hair dressed in dark, glittering mail shadows his steps before taking position alongside him. She watches you unabashedly, taking your measure. Let's move past this formality as quickly as possible. I have other matters to attend to. It's well known that Caed Nua belongs to me by right. And where is this pretender? He who murdered the Radricks, my own sister and her husband, and now steals my land. Where is this low-born wretch? Warren clears his throat and glances at you. This man here, this is the Lord of Caed Nua? I thought he was just another servant, perhaps a valet or porter. Everyone who owns their keep, raise a hand. Go on, don't be shy. Imbecile! I hope you enjoyed your time squatting on my land. Provoke me further and I'll hang you from the highest wall of Caed Nua when our business is finished. Chancellor, read the Earl's decree. Warren breaks the seal on the scroll and unfurls it. Regarding the matter of the Gathbin claim on Caed Nua, Earl Badana finds that the Gathbin claim was never relinquished. By law, Caed Nua is the rightful property of the Gathbin family. Ah, hell. I knew it. Gathbin smirks at you triumphantly. I'm not finished yet reading, my lord. I've not yet finished reading, my lord. Gathbin rolls his eyes and motions for the Chancellor to continue. However, the Earl recognizes Alanar's part in reclaiming Caed Nua, a site that has stood abandoned and even some would say cursed for over a century. Before Caed Nua is returned to the Gathbin family, the Earl has decreed that Lord Gathbin will provide compensation in the form of— Absolutely not! Gathbin folds his arms, a defiant scowl on his face. The Lord? Warren raises his eyebrows. The amount is quite reasonable and a requirement for your land to be returned to you, if you'll just allow me to finish. I'll not pay a single copper to this miscreant for my ancestral land. Do you think I'm blind to the Earl's motives, lackey? He thinks he can send a message with this insult. I'll have a message you can send to that son of a whore. Gathbin raises a hand as the Chancellor strings for him, arms raised in defiance. Keep your hands off me, you peasant! Gathbin yanks his arm free of your hand and steps back. The elven woman deftly draws a pistol from her thick leather belt, her eyes widen in anticipation. My lord, please, there's no need for violence. Lord Gathbin holds your gaze for several heartbeats, his eyes burning with hatred. I'll be coming for what's mine. Count on it. Come, Captain Emery, we're leaving. He sneers defiantly before storming down the hall. The captain lowers her pistol and gives a smirking shrug before following her employer. Oh hi, it's the animal companion. Well, I can't say that Gathman's reaction was entirely unexpected. Through no fault of your own, I'm afraid you've made a powerful enemy. He did seem a little upset, didn't he? I've heard he's always been vicious, even as a boy, and he can hold a grudge for a very long time. In any case, Caed Nua now officially belongs to you since Lord Gathman has rejected the Earl's decree. He hands you a deep blue scepter which looks to have been carved entirely out of sapphire. Here, this belonged to one of the old lords of Caed Nua. By right, it is yours. Alright. Geared Heroinist stands. I'll have to check that. Please extend an invitation to Lord Gathman to feast with me within the halls of Caed Nua. There's no need for us to be enemies. That is a generous offer, and I'll make sure it reaches Lord Gathman. It was a pleasure to finally meet you, my lord. Warren bows. Perhaps we'll speak again under more pleasant circumstances. Farewell, Eleanor. The Marshal nods at you and leaves.
Hey there.
Alright, anyone in here I can talk to? Probably just the records keeper then. Alright, a call to court has been seen to. Unfortunately, by the sounds of it, life is about to get very interesting. Oh hey, taxes collected? What? Well, I guess I do owe the area now. That's useful. I'll have to put in more security though if I'm losing a bit to bandits.
Well met, friend.
Yes, is there something I can pull for you? A taciturn man with graying hair pours. Oh, wait. Hang on, let me read this. A taciturn man with graying hair pores over a turn he's just withdrawn from one of the shelves. He glances up at you with baggy eyes. I'm looking for militia records from the time of the Saints' War, trying to find out what happened to someone. The man clears his throat. Throat? What am I saying? We've had a number of inquiries about such information. I'm afraid we have had to bar access to the public. Seems there are still quite a number of folks in Deerwood who bear ill will toward Radserans. It would be irresponsible to surrender their names to just anyone. Many came here to settle here as refugees. Perhaps if you were more established in Defiance Bay, theirs would be different, but I have no reason to suspect you to be any different from others. You've come a long way. I just need to find out about my brother. I don't even know what side he fought for. You must understand, I have heard many such stories. I'm afraid there is nothing I can do for you. Oh, that complicates things. I don't want to just force my way in, as I have a bad feeling of what might happen if I do. But my reputation in this, or my reputation in the city stronger. Okay, so I guess to that end, what would be the best way? Let's see, reputation within the city. What's this? Hirelings. Interesting. So these would help either maintain security or... interesting. What would be good? Well, I guess it'll help improve my reputation, so may as well. And besides, I've got the coin to spend. I mean, looking at how much I got in taxes, I can easily afford to spend 80 copper per day. Well, actually per day? Hang on. Turn 15. Well, worst case scenario, I can always... Well, honestly, how much is considered a turn? 15. When did this start? I'm assuming a turn represents a day? Let's see. Taxes weren't collected until day 15, well, turn 15. I don't know what kind of effect that might have. Let's see. Yeah, that should do for now. How far are we along this part? That should be fine.
Welcome.
Hey there.
So it looks like I'm not getting a clear answer in that regard. Wonder what's over this way. Only people with official invitations are allowed to observe the animancy hearings. Okay, animancy hearings, oh boy. Yeah, that's gonna be fun to deal with. Now back out into the city. Heritage Hill over this way. Hunter's Gift. Phelan Embassy. Crucible Keep. Well, I guess we may as well unlock the pathway over
the
here.
life of a traveler. So many ruins to uncover, places to see.
Indeed.
Indeed. Though after 5 years, I'll be ready for a break.
It is true. You have been at it far longer than I. Where will you go next, when you have all the world to choose from?
Home, of course.
It's good to see those back and forth. Who are you? Ah, one of these. You see a trio of Orlans, bright and gaudy, their instruments weapons as they compete with one another in brutal disharmony. Behind them, a troupe of performers roll, jump, and gesture, teeth flashing with exquisite sharpness as they enact some bizarre pantomime. The smallest, one moment seemingly a child and the next an old man, thrusts obscenely at the crowd, eyes glazed behind his rictus grin. Rictus? I'm not familiar with that word. I'm gonna look that one up. A gaping grimace. Okay, cool. Where were we? Yeah. The crowd jostles uncomfortably at his display, dissatisfaction in their midst. No money is thrown, no praise given as the performers continue their display. The crowd disperses, uneasy, and the man-child's grin grows obscene as he watches them go. Okay then. Yeah, definitely a noble district. So this... Oh, that must be one of the statues that was mentioned.
I'll take a peek.
Weeds grow thick and full, untroubled by the passage of kith. A ghost
Come to pay your respects to the queen that was.
A ghost hovers in the middle of the ruin, reciting blessings and prayers. Even as the spirit's form shifts and swirls, it retains the face of an elderly man and robes that mark wealth and status. It turns to you. Who are you? Lord Adwell.
Lord Ardwellen Rugford III.
There it is.
And pleased to make your acquaintance. I came to the Deerwood on one of the first ships from Adia. And unlike the yokels and hut dwellers around here, I still keep to the old ways.
It's truly a pity to see what the locals have done to Wodika's house of worship. What are you doing?
Worshipping Wodika, the exiled queen and oathbinder. I come every day to offer my devotion. I'd love nothing more than to book passage back to Adia, but it is my emperor's wish that I serve in these barbaric lands. And so I do.
I'd like to know more about Wodika.
A queen among the gods. She oversees laws and oaths. Everything has a rightful place, and Wodika watches over them all. Of course, not everyone accepts this. Even among the other gods, her authority is questioned. But Wodika is also goddess of memory and vengeance, and she remembers. She'll remember every slight and trespass when she reclaims her throne.
Is that what the cultists down below are messing with? Trying to increase her power somehow? You know that you're a ghost, right?
I beg your pardon? Is this some sort of joke where you come from?
I'm serious, just look at yourself.
A madhouse. That's what this town really needs.
So he's not even aware of his situation? Strange. Also, it looks like the way down to the Temple of Wodika's boarded up pretty well. Alright, so let's trigger the pathway to Andra's gift. Alright, there we go.
All these circling feet heading nowhere.
Had a feeling this would be one of those. You see solemn faces, hundreds of them. They stand in silent remembrance, a town officially lamenting the sacrifice of some brave hero. His companions stand at the side, empty. The officials tell their story, the saving of the village, the story of the one lost to the trolls in the battle as best he can. But the faces of his friends say far more about the veracity of the speech. Finally it's over, and the villagers move back to their lives. The adventurers mill about for a time, talking, remembering, before heading back to the inn for the night. They mourn in their own ways. Tears, anger, svef, broken bottles. The leader of the group stays quiet, gaze inward. Weeks pass, and he speaks little, leaving the inn early in the morning and returning late at night, exhausted. Finally, he takes the others to see it. A statue, life-sized, beautiful in its crude design. The villagers mounted in the square as the group leaves, still empty, but a little less broken. The statue smiles at them as they leave. Interesting. So, Valen diplomats. I have no reason to go to the Valen embassy yet, as far as I know anyway. I won't worry about that just yet. Alright, gonna have to be careful messing around in this place, but let's see what we can get away with.
Well met, friend.
Aldmar gives you an appraising eye. Judging by the scars on his face, he's lucky to be able to do that much. Every day we get more from the hinterlands pouring into Defiance Bay. Keeps us busy on the watch, it does. You look like you've recently arrived yourself. Who are you? A soldier of the Crucible Knights, and proud of it. I help keep everything running at the keep so that Commander Cliver can focus on more important matters. Looking for something? Or just knocking up the dirt off your boots? What goes on in Crucible Keep? This is the headquarters of the Crucible Knights, so it's where we store arms and armor, as well as many of our soldiers' bunk. Actually, did I read that right? As well as where many of our soldiers bunk. That's a strange way to put it, but then again, old-timey. Commander Cliver's in the back, making plans, as usual. He scratches a scarred cheek. You'll find the forge at the west end of the building, along with our master smith, Dunstan. There's also a shrine to the golem, if you're the praying type. Tell me about the Crucible Knights. We're the defenders of Defiance Bay. We're not exactly a formal knighthood, but don't tell Commander Cliver I said that. We were the first organized militia to oppose Adiran rule, and today we're the largest force in the city. Our soldiers undergo years of combat training, and our officers are required to have their souls read by the critter out in Dunwood Row. What's this about Dunwood Row? Just a requirement of the Crucible Knights, so the higher-ups know there's nothing messy built into your soul's past. Aldmar widens his stance. Keeping the ranks pure is fine by me. I just wish they were more careful in hiding their ciphers. What's wrong with their ciphers? He shifts his weight and glances at the empty halls. They're mostly Orlans. I'm sure they're talented enough, but you just can't trust them. Hostility's in their nature, and they've learned to hide it over the years. He frowns and crosses his arms. All I'm saying is they should at least be supervised by other folk. That's reasonable enough, isn't it? If people treated them better, you wouldn't have to worry about them being so hostile. Aldmar shrugs. I'm just speaking the truth. Nowadays, it seems that's the biggest crime of all. Oh, that kind of character. That'll be fun. Actually, now that I think of it, aren't you the brat that I'm supposed to be seeing to? Oh, Peldmar. Oh, Penhelm, right. Huh. I bet the best chance I have would be to go to Dunwood Row to try and find the animancer that did that. Huh. Training room. Shits. The Justicar's gaze flicks over to you briefly before returning to the novitiates gathered in the training area. If this is about patrols, my novitiates are already stretched to their limit. Between the refugee influx and the mess at Heritage Hills, I simply don't have any units to spare. After a pause, she looks over at you again. I'm sorry, was there something else you need? Is something wrong at Heritage Hills? She lowers her voice. What isn't wrong is the real question. A whole district of walking, flesh-eating corpses. We sealed the area 2 months ago, just after I lost one of my finest commanders there. And yet this is the second guard rotation to disappear. There are already enough rumors about the place floating around the keep without my soldiers whispering about these disappearances. She shakes her head. I'd just as soon abandon the district, but if those monsters should find a way out. Tell me about Heritage Hill. It used to be one of the most prestigious districts in Defiance Bay, but a few months ago the residents all went mad, started eating each other, and anything else that had the bad luck to wander into the district. I've never seen anything like it. Now, every novitiate that stands guard there, everyone that comes back anyway, talks of the stench of the grave and the groan of unspeakable horrors. She holds up one plate-clad finger. The why and the how are questions for the Animancers. I sealed the district in hopes of containing whatever happened there. Seems to be working. For now. If there's nothing else, I must attend to my duties. I could look into it. She steps back and regards you. After what I've just told you, you want to go to Heritage Hills? I've lost trained soldiers there. Why should I let anyone in? You've got nothing to lose. If you're so eager to rush to your death, I won't stop you. She quietly looks on at the novitiates. And if you're somehow able to put a stop to this, you've got my permission to enter Heritage Hills. I'll send words to the guards at the gate. What do you do here? I'm in charge of the keep's novitiates. I'm responsible for their training and patrol assignments. She nods to the group gathered in the training room. They're good soldiers, and they've been quick to adapt to the new challenges. Heritage Hills, huh? I'm so glad everything's sorted like this. So where exactly does that fall here? Okay, so over in that direction. I get the feeling that had I wandered further up, or actually taken the pathway there, I might have run into problems then. Or at least been stopped by someone. This is a record of active patrols and reported crimes in Andra's Gift. The latter far outnumber the former. Penhelm's affidavit. Curran, a cipher duly appointed and employed by Dunwood Road, does hereby certify the novitiate A.M. Penhelm has been found to have a soul free of any subversive influence or tainted essence. Scroll is stamped with the seal of Dunwood Row, and signed by both Penhel and Curran. Curran, huh? It seems like I'd have to go to Dunwood Row to go any further than that.
I'll see what I can do. The work of a moment.
Anything worth getting? No. Edict of Arrest. This edict is for the arrest of Aorn, whose recent actions have led to the death of a knight in the Crucible. It requests reporting any information to Justicar Aldmar. It is signed Commander Cliver. Interesting. I just realized I'm being very aimless with how I wander. Thick grime cakes the bottom of this tub. The towel hanging from the side gives off an awful stench. Okay, so that's the washroom then, is what they're saying. And here's the forge.
If this is about the breastplates, I already told Cleaver they won't be repaired till next week.
What do you do here?
I'm a forge master. I'm a master smith for the Crucible Knights. But the way I see it, I'm also keeping up with our old traditions. The first members of our order were smiths. Nowadays, most everyone's a professional soldier. I suppose it's to be expected, but I think it's important we keep up with our roots, too.
Tell me about the Knights.
We were all smiths back in Hodred's day, though I'm about the only one here who still gets his hands dirty. We're a fearsome fighting force, though these days I think Cleaver takes more pride in our parade formations.
Cleaver, huh? It feels like I keep mispronouncing everything by not hearing it first. I always make the wrong assumption, it seems like. He thinks himself a progressive man, but he's obsessed with soul lineages and connections to the Deerwoods heroes of old. He picks up his hammer again. Other than Dunrid Rowe, who really knows about any of that though? Show him the pieces of the blade of the Endless Paths. I found several fragments of an ancient sword. Do you think you could repair it? Dunstan gives a low whistle. That's a fine blade indeed. He holds one fragment in his rough hands. Looks Adiran, special made. Must have been a commission for a champion of some sort. He hands the shards back to you. A sword of this caliber would have had a specially designed hilt too. It would be a shame to graft anything else onto it. And besides, it'll balance best with all of the original pieces. You find the rest of it and I'll forge it for you. Alright, that tells me what I need to know. I guess I'll have to go back into the basement eventually then. I mean, to be fair, I'm pretty sure the next chance I leave... I'm pretty sure... Yeah, honestly, that'll probably be the thing I do on a regular basis, is every time I end up needing to leave Defiance Bay for any reason, I'll just spend more time in the basement. This is the symbol of Abaddon, a colossal smithing hammer imposed over a circular gear. It's smooth and bright with buffing oils. What's in here? Daily affirmations of focus and efficiency.
We just don't have the manpower.
Commander Cleaver, as well as a couple of jesters.
Refugees from every corner of the Deerwood. The dozens getting them all riled up about animancy. At this rate, we'll need twice the soldiers to patrol Defiance Bay. Yes? Can I help you with something?
He opens his mouth to say something to one of his men, but he follows the soldier's gaze over his shoulder to you. You're in charge of the Crucible Knights? Here at Defiance Bay, anyhow. The High Justice is the leader of our order, but he's currently stationed at Fleetbreaker Castle. My job is to oversee our forces in Defiance Bay and to keep order for the Duke. Was there something else I can do for you? Why don't you have enough soldiers?
Fleetbreaker Castle. The High Justice has summoned almost half of my novitiates, and more of my justiciars to a keep on the other side of New Hailmar. It's not for me to question the High Justice's orders, but it's left us short-handed. And mark me, we're just a couple sparks away from anarchy.
With so many newcomers, can't you just recruit more soldiers? More recruits means more training, which means more time from experienced soldiers that I don't have. Anyway, I hardly see how this is any of your concern. But if you've got the time to ask me about it, then perhaps you've got time to do something constructive. Forge Master Dunstan is working with an animancy scholar to build what we're calling Forge Knights, warriors that can patrol our streets without suffering fatigue, disobedience, or fear. Some agitator throws a rock at him, we don't have to worry about things getting out of hand. He's constructed the armor, but we need the scholar's research. Unfortunately, she hasn't been around the last few times my novitiates have checked. Viana lives with the rest of the Scriveners out in Copper Lane, but I haven't the soldiers to spare the moment. Wait, how do you not have a soldier to spare to go check on someone? Okay, that's contrived. Go to the Scrivener's dormitory and see if you can find her. When you get the research, just bring it to Dunstan. This is his area of expertise anyway. Once you've brought up the research, he can sell you any arms or armor if you have need. He forges and repairs all of our equipment. You won't find a more capable smith in Defiance Bay. Tell me about the Knights of the Crucible. He crosses his hand behind his back. We're the only professional army in Defiance Bay, or in the Deerwood for that matter. We defended the city in Hadrit's day. We've improved our training since then, but Dunrid Rowe can certify that many of our officers come from... But Dunrid Rowe can certify that many of our officers come from good Deerwood and fighting stock. Now we're responsible for patrolling the city and keeping the peace. With so many refugees pouring in from the countryside, that's become more important than ever. Unfortunately, that's earned us enemies, particularly among the dozens and some of the more enterprising families in Defiance Bay. What do the dozens have against you? They're demagogues and troublemakers. They forget that Defiance Bay is one of the largest cities in the world and not some frontier outpost. Most of them are mercenaries on a good day and street thugs the rest of the time. Needless to say, they've no patience for law and order. Tell me about these enterprising families. House Dominal, namely. They're one of the city's oldest noble families and its largest criminal organization. Their patriarch, Gedmar, has been trying to take advantage of the turmoil to expand his operations. We've kept on top of him, and he hasn't been too happy about that. Okay. So plenty to see to then. As we'll go exploring back in here just to be doubly sure that I've seen to. Oh, Adair wants to talk. Let's leave. Well, let's leave the place real quick first. Let's see, anyone that is worth speaking to. Penhelm. This ought to be interesting.
Well met, friend.
Are you looking for someone? Something? It's hard to believe he's even seen battle, or that the scarred antique breastplate he wears could possibly be his. Tell me about the Knights of the Crucible. We're the primary defenders of Defiance Bay. The Order's founders were the first to rally for Deerwood and independence. Of course, that's ancient history now. Now we're the most prestigious company of soldiers in the Deerwood. It's a glorious line of work. If you can forget about the barracks, that is. Was there anything else? How did someone become a knight? We don't just take anyone. Our members share soul legacies with the very men and women who defended this land a century and a half ago. Anyhow, Commander Cleaver is responsible for his initiations, but he rarely accepts foreigners.
Welcome.
Does the name Osric sound familiar? If you've got any self-respect, you won't associate with him. Or with any of his new friends of the expedition, all for that matter. Scamps and delinquents, the lot of them. What's the story between you two? Osric has always held some controversial opinions, but they went overlooked for the longest time because his family had such an extensive history and service in the Crucible Knights. He frowns and crosses his arms. He finally went too far. He had the gall to suggest that we strayed too far from our roots, that some of our officers were beginning to resemble a dear nobility. Nobility. Nobility? What did I just say? He rubs a spot on his bracer with a silk handkerchief. He would have us all wear rough spun and fight with forge hammers. I merely reported his statements. That history made the Knights what they are now. You can't just cast it aside. We've outgrown that past. He waves a shining gauntlet. Sometimes you need to move on. Outgrown it like an old sealskin coat? You adapt with the times, sure, but that's a bit naive. Is that his breastplate you're wearing? It was. He looks down and admires it. It became property of the Crucible Knights when he was discharged. Now it's mine. And it's not for sale if that's what you're wondering. Not every day you find armor that was used in the rebellion. He says your affidavit is a forgery. Just what would he know about that? It's perfectly convenient for him to cast aspersions, what with his pedigree in the Knights. It's a lie, of course. Enough about Osric. On that, we can agree.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty.
Sure.
Alrighty, that gives us a direction to move in. So, let's go ahead and talk to Adair. The Unworn Path added? Ah, let's see what this is. Among the kind wayfarers, in the event that a member of the Order dies of natural causes, it is customary for the Paladin to request burial in a dangerous place that is difficult to reach. In fulfilling their lost comrade's request, the other kind wayfarers forge new paths that others may more easily follow. When the elder Paladin Adrem Delphar died, his brothers and sisters set out for Red Flower Lake in a remote eastern part of Redcuras, but they never reached their destination. With so few kind wayfarers left in that part of the Eastern Reach, the Order has reached out for assistance in recovering their comrades and helping see them to their resting place. Go get them. Alright, now let's go. Why is there a random... Actually, wait, that's our pet. Never mind.
Hey.
Strange place for a shrine to Abaddon, Crucible Keep. Maybe it made more sense at some point before it gathered all that dust. Only thing the Knights of the Crucible worship these days is the nobility, as far as I understand it. I knew some soldiers who got recruited by the Knights after the war was over. They told me something about it. They get these young kids in there and they tell them about blacksmithing and about the revolution and about tradition. Talk about the golem like he created the Crucible Knights in his forge to go win Deerwood's independence. Then they join and it turns out all those knights ever talk about is when are we gonna get recognized as a real knighthood? When are we getting our titles and our land? Their High Justice wants us to be an earl. Says it's Abaddon's will. He's got a castle and an army. You wonder how long he'll wait before he starts a war over it, saying Abaddon told him to. And the nobles will respond that their gods told them that they're the only true nobles. Trouble with having all these gods is, you've got support no matter how dumb your ideas are. Maybe we had the right idea blowing some of them up. Less of them to hide behind.
Yeah?
That's one way to put it. So, I'm trying to think of where... I kind of want to get into some combat, so I kind of want to go to Heritage Hills. Although, combat at night, when there's a lot of undead, that doesn't sound like a good idea. Let's go to Brackenbury. Who are you?
Gods keep you.
A woman stands in the shade of the garden, muttering to herself. She's fixated on the pages of a large and well-worn tome, seemingly oblivious to the blooming flowers and the cool, fragrant breeze. She only looks up when your shadow crosses her page. Do you mind? I'm rather busy. What are you so busy with? She snaps her book shut. I'm studying soul attachment. We all know that souls move into people at birth and out of them at death, but we still have a lot of questions about what makes them stick, so to speak. What do you mean about making them stick? She presses a stray lock from her forehead. Souls power bodies and give their tissues life, but only when they're firmly attached. It's separation that leads to a whole spate of soul-related ailments, including the Hollowborn. But if we understood how to reattach souls, we could end Widewind's legacy, maybe even conquer death. She scratches behind her ear. That's the theory anyway. Unfortunately, I don't have all of the research I need to put it into practice. What exactly do you need? There's a manuscript called the Theorems of Pangrim. It contains research from Pangrim's experiments on detached souls. The Hall of Revealed Mysteries is rumored to have a copy in the Elder Archives. Oh, that's what I found in there. Pangrim's work is considered to be one of the more, daring animancy texts, not something generally circulated among novices, nor easy to get a hold of. I wonder if we might have a peek at it. The theorems could advance my research by leaps and bounds, but Grimda the High Archivist worships whale, which means she has some paradoxical views on sharing and restricting knowledge, and since she's not exactly a proponent of animancy, she tends to restrict that kind of information that would be useful to me. I'm sorry to hear that. Look at me spilling my troubles. It's kind of you to listen, but I should really get back to my work. Anything else? Tell me about yourself. I'm an animancer at the sanitarium. Currently, I'm researching matters related to Widewind's legacy. Alright, so... I don't care much for the term Widewind's legacy. It reeks of superstition, but it's too prevalent to change at this point. Personally, I'd like to see people take a more methodical approach to these matters rather than throwing up their hands and blaming the gods. Good to hear someone speaking sense on the matters. I have some questions about the theorems of Pangrim. Such as? Tell me about the theorems. Pangrim was an animancer working in the Deerwood. He had some interesting theories about essence and some rather innovative techniques for studying it. He was able to reattach souls to bodies after death, although he wasn't able to prevent his patients from degenerating. He was controversial to say the least, but many are starting to realize that he was merely ahead of his time. What do you mean by degenerating? Well, Nedden twists her hands together. Well, there seems to be a tiny problem with reattaching souls after death. The bodies will reanimate and may even retain memories and personality, but they develop a hunger for flesh, living, soul-infused flesh. Without it, they start to devolve, decaying mentally and physically. If the process goes too far, which it eventually does, they become mindless corpses, attacking anything that moves. We haven't figured a way to avoid that. Oh, so that's why they're called vessels. Oh, that's why they're called vessels. Okay. That's why undead are called vessels, because that's literally how undead are brought about. Interesting. That is more than an inconvenient side effect. You've reproduced an unnatural curse with little to show for it. That sounds like necromancy. Nonsense. Necromancy is magic. This is science. Same effect, though. Why doesn't Grimda lend you the books you need? The Hall of Revealed Mysteries is rather protective of its books, especially the rarer ones, and Grimda in particular. She hates animancy, thinks it's dangerous. I don't see how you can run the greatest library in the Deerwood and be so averse to the spread of knowledge and research, but I've never understood those religious types. Alot scowls at the Animancer. Some knowledge is best kept under lock and key. I'd like to know about the Hall of Revealed Mysteries. You'll find it in the Copper Lane district. It's dedicated to the god of secrets and revelations. More importantly, it houses the largest and most expansive library in the Deerwood. Well, that settles it. We simply must go see it, right? What are the Elder Archives? The Elder Archives holds the rarest, most arcane, and most powerful texts in the Deerwood. Think of it as the inner sanctum in the Hall of Revealed Mysteries. Needless to say, you'll need Grimda's permission to enter. So given the fact that I'm able to go in myself... Interesting. So, hang on, Hadrid. Wasn't there something that named Hadrid? Oh man, there's a lot in here. And I can create notes for things. Alrighty, either way. Let's see. Well, I do need... Well, we did mean to check on the sanitariums, so, for the sake of Aloth, but so may as well. While we are here. I have a really bad feeling about giving him that, but... Well, let's look around a little bit. Oh, one of these. You sense a strange divide in this woman's soul, an unnatural boundary between two opposed wills. You see the woman pausing by a roadside to hand something to the driver of a stopped wagon. These herbs should help with his party's sickness, she tells him. He can find more along the road, easy to spot with their serrated leaves, but avoid the ones with the green berries. It's a different species, toxic. He thanks her and offers her coin, but she waves him off, explaining that she is merely doing what her order asks of her. He nods and she heads off down the road as he begins to hungrily consume the herb. You see the woman searching alongside the road now, the wagon just up the path, and you realize you have skipped backward in her memory. She sets eyes on a plant with serrated leaves and green berries. She picks several handfuls, carrying the berries off one by one and tossing them on the ground. She nudges them off the path into the brush quickly with her boots, without looking down, as if to hide them from her own sight, before striding back toward the wagon, hands outstretched. That's mortifying. Huh? The statue is talking? A well-maintained statue of a middle-aged man presides over the room, looking down unblinking over the bustle of harried academics pestered by the hopeful desperate. A strong warmth emanates from it that you could sense from across the room. There is a human soul stored beneath the stonework. You feel its attention turned toward you. It has been some time since you watched her grace these halls. His voice echoes deeply, rumbling the floor beneath you. I am envious of your natural insights, traveler. I can only imagine how it might have helped my work in life. Now, what is it that has brought you to my sanitarium? I'm curious as to how you've come to be in your present state. In the statue, you mean? Well, I was old, and it seemed wrong to me. A lifetime spent in pursuit of discovery, only to lose it all in death. Somehow, someday, I would wake up in a new body none the wiser, and pursue a different course entirely. All that experience wasted. If we are ever to unearth the principles behind our existence, it will be in spite of our condition. Of that I am quite sure. To live on as part of something I helped build seemed to me a better legacy than what nature had in store. The transfer itself was quite simple as our techniques go, and for that I am grateful. Playing with souls is far easier to accept when they are not your own. I do miss being able to take an active role in the scholarly efforts here. Now and again, one of our animancers will humor me and consult over some problems, but they are a jealous breed and are too often afraid to collaborate. If you are considering it yourself, I can tell you that it isn't for the easily bored. Tell me about the sanitarium. A history lesson? This is a rare pleasure. Most come in here only concerned with cheating death in one way or another. Whereas we are an old institution as Deerwood goes. This is our 94th year. As with many cities, the growth of Defiance Bay brought with it a host of problems. One of the worst was that those born with, shall we say, ill-favored souls came to populate its streets in droves. Thus, the sanitarium. Brackenbury was a natural fit. It was growing, but there was also a lot of money here back then. This place owes its survival to the curiosities of the wealthy more than anything, I think. Our founding came at a time of great suspicion in animancy, much like today. So much progress has been lost to the mishaps of a few careless practitioners. But in time it was forgotten, as all things are. Since then we have been at the forefront of animancy's resurgence. We have played host to many gifted researchers and pushed the boundaries of our knowledge in ways never thought possible. Some of the first safe transferences were done here, and we have pioneered work in soul purification, lineage analysis, preservation. It's really quite a list, if you'll pardon my pride. Today it's... well, I can't say it's exactly the same. There's been some push to shut us down. It comes from Deerwood's more excitable denizens, whose minds are more passionate than thoughtful, I'm afraid. People see this legacy, and they see it involves something they don't understand. So it's natural for them to suspect people whose understanding exceeds theirs. It looks to them like we're hiding something. We have a representative in the palace this very moment, defending the entire science of animancy at a hearing before the Duke, absurd as it sounds. If it does not go well, it could be the end of animancy in Deerwood. I fear Avar may be swayed by all this unrest, irrational though it may be. We shall see. Does anyone here know anything about awakenings? There's an animancer on the lower floor who came all the way from Revua to study them. Take the stairs down and look for Belisage. I'm looking for an animancer named Modred. Modred, of course. You'll find him downstairs, in the first room on the right. You may have a member of the Leaden Key in your midst. Ethelmer groans around and the stone around him shudders. I could have done without hearing that today. Many have their intrusions been into our affairs. Of course, one can seldom be certain whether they've meddled or whether calamity has struck on its own. But a few of their less skilled infiltrators have been exposed from time to time. They are a perpetual nuisance. Once again, I am reminded of how envious I am of your gifts. I suspect they would be of some use in verifying one's identity. You are at odds with the Leaden Key as well, I take it? They are up to something, and I'm trying to determine what. They are always up to something. Of that you may rest assured. If their plots have come to involve you, you have my sympathies. Do you have some idea of who this person might be? I won't know until I've met them. Very well. In that case, I would recommend you speak first with our resident animancers. They have frequent interactions with both patients and colleagues. You'll find them up here or in their offices downstairs. You will report anyone suspicious to me immediately. This is my only request. Someone waiting there, a prisoner by choice. You anyone special? You see a dark room with garish furnishings, a large bed covered with pillows, several couches, and expensive rugs. This man is sitting in a chair pushed against the wall of the room opposite the door. He is dressed in dark clothes, with a black cloak wrapped around his shoulders, its hood pulled close around his face. Shadows fall around him, the darkness rendering him virtually invisible. Two other men wait in the darkness with him, watching the door. All three are motionless. Noise from the crowded common room below echoes up through the floorboards. The handle rattles. A man staggers in, dragging a young woman with him. The two standing men exchange a quick glance, one of them tilting his head and shrugging only slightly before jumping to the task at hand. One steps forward, grabbing the girl's wrist, wrenching it from her escort's hold with one hand while pushing the door closed with the other. Then that hand is over the girl's mouth before she is even aware she's in someone else's arms. He takes a dagger from its place on his belt and draws it across her neck. He holds her still, waits for the struggling to stop. The other standing man has already subdued their target, now tied to a chair, arms and legs bound with a rag stuffed in his mouth. The girl, no longer moving, is placed under the bed, the man who dealt with her taking his place beside the other. They stare down at the man screaming against the cloth, but the muffled sound is unheard over the raucous noise of the crowd below. One of the men begins murmuring softly, putting his hand under the chin of the man in the chair. There is a brief flash of light, and the man stops struggling, a suddenly placid look in his eyes. The two captors ask various questions that the bound man answers happily. After they finish, the two look to the man sitting against the wall. He has not moved as the events transpired before him, but only sat, silently observing everything as it happened. He stands, holding the cloak closed around himself, and nods to the two men. He then walks to the door, opens it only far enough to allow himself to exit, and leaves them to finish their task. Ugh, fun times. Sounds to Rudiger? The Midwife's Memoir.
Sure.
Any other interesting books? The Most Unfortunate Tale of Fabia and Bernat, a Valen Tragedy. Nasutak Poetry, a compilation. That'd probably be fascinating to read. This man's soul was torn asunder by a Biowak. As you can see, the patient is unresponsive, common after soul trauma. The Animancer places a small stone upon the patient's forehead. A portion of his soul was recovered near his body. We use this stone as a vessel for transfer. Can you hear me, Oswin? The patient's eyes slowly open before a panicked, wild expression washes over him. Unfortunately, the extended dissociation has permanent side effects. The patient becomes more agitated, grunting and moaning as he tugs at his bonds. With further research, we're confident that we'll be able to rehabilitate patients like Oswin. Wait, Oswin, that name sounds familiar. Oh, that's probably why.
Hail, traveler.
A bald man with a crooked nose gestures in demonstration over the still body of a patient before a small gathering of interested onlookers. Feeling your gaze, he pauses his discussion. Have you come to sit in? What do you do here? Closest we are to the Glenfadden's wilds, we get a number of Biowak maimings every year. Survivors dealing with complications from exposure. This fellow here is a severe case. His essence is a mere whisper of what it was. I am early in my research, only beginning to understand how they work. But in time, I hope to find a way to protect people from the storm's effects.
Well met, friend.
Do you know anything about awakenings?
Nope. Well met, friend.
It's the mission that attracted me here. The treatment of the disturbed. No one else seems to care about them. Here, they've worked wonders for them. I've seen people cured of insatiable hungers and uncontrollable urges. I've seen the crippled walk and the dysphoric smile. All within these walls. The thought that the Duke could put an end to it with a single order keeps me up at nights.
Hey there.
These look like field sketches of Ingwithan ruins and artifacts. Idear Customs. This painting of a rolling forest glen has a strangely soothing effect. Alright, let's head downstairs and see what awaits us. Interesting that there's a downstairs and not an upstairs, though. Or maybe I just didn't notice the upstairs. Alright. Why do I not have... Ah, I think you're the one I need to talk to for Alot's problems.
Gods keep you.
A woman paces back and forth, her feet crunching on the soft red carpet. She gestures and mumbles to herself, shaking her head as she pores over pages of notes. She almost walks into you. Ikosi! Here I am, looking so hard for answers in my research that I do not see the kit standing in front of me. What can I do? I'm looking for an expert on awakenings. She laughs bitterly. Ah, that would be me. Though the lack of research subjects has made me more of an expert in counting floorboards, I would like to transfer Animancy's success in buttressing pre-awakened souls to soothing those whose souls have already awakened. But I need subjects, and most of the patients here are too broken to produce reliable results. It is a tragedy to have come so far to nothing. You're in luck. I have a volunteer. She springs to the balls of her feet, beaming. Gilad, who is it? Alot's lip curls into a frown. I don't know about this. She grins more broadly still. Don't be silly. The process is perfectly harmless. All you must do is stand in that cage. I beg your pardon. I jest. You Adirans are so uptight. I do not even know what the thing is used for. It belongs to the last occupant. I do not even know what that thing is used for. It belonged to the last occupant of this office, I think. Now they upgraded him to a cell. Again, I jest. She rubs her hands together, getting down to business. So, I need you to sit here. She takes Alot by the shoulder and ears him to the couch. And try to relax, but don't try too hard, then you will not be relaxing. Indeed. His eyes are humorless. And you must also wear these. A little cold, but the copper will help conduct your essence. The Animancer fastens thick copper bands to Alot's forehead and wrists. As she ratchets them tighter, her face twitches with suppressed irritation. Now, I will examine your soul through my scope. She reaches into her desk and produces a long chambered tube. Knobs, dials, and small toothed wheels run along the side of the device. It is filled with Adra lenses cut to different thickness and concavities. By manipulating them, I find the angles and densities that will allow me to track the anomalies in your soul. How exciting! I've never seen this sort of thing performed. Kane peers at the device with interest. It seems suitably complicated. Does this mean we'll get to talk to Isilmir more? I like that lady. You would like someone like that. She raises a finger. But first, we must find this cunning interloper. You will answer some personal questions while I make adjustments. Don't worry, I'm sure we won't hear any of this. Sagani pats his arm. Very well. She holds the scope to her eye and flicks a knob. To begin, tell me something personal. Something from a time before your awakening. There's nothing to tell. I was just a normal child living in the Sithwood. He looks to you. His face is set in a frown, but the rigid edges of apprehension show through nevertheless. What do you remember about your home? As you speak to Aloft, you feel your voice like a bell in your chest. It tolls softly, luring him into the midst of his own memory. Belisage doesn't seem to notice anything, but you feel as if your words are smoothing his essence, untangling its many threads. He closes his eyes. Comfortable, modest, quiet when Mother is away, which is most of the time. Quiet enough to hear the clink of glass on wood. This is when I know to be most careful. Father is good about hiding the bottles. Mother, when she is home, is good at pretending not to notice them. This is good. I'm starting to see something. Continue. Tell us about the time you awakened. She bites her tongue as she twists one of the dials. I am in my 5th year of training. Mother is home. I can let my guard down a little because when she is around, he is usually only angry with her. But he has heard that I have had trouble casting missiles, that my flame shields are unstable. He is furious that I have failed, and Mother's presence reminds him that he has failed too. The first blow takes me by surprise. One moment I am sweeping the kitchen, the next I am sprawled on the ground, stupidly looking at flecks of blood on the tile. His boots, glistening with fresh polish, thud across the floor. He kicks me in the stomach and I curl up to shield my vitals. But it's pointless. Protecting one thing only leaves something else exposed. Still huddled on the ground, I retreat as fast as I can. I retreat until the vision of the kitchen and my own trembling knees is nothing but a pinprick against a field of black. His jaw locks and his eyes twitch beneath their lids. Adityo! Belisage furiously cranks the knobs of the longer scope. He's hypnotized himself with his old memory. You've got to bring him out of it. Quickly, I almost have it. I kind of want to slap him. Your flattened palm is inches from his cheek when his hand shoots up and grabs your wrist. Alot's eyes snap open, but the expression you see in them isn't his. Try it again and I'll take it up before I give it back to you. Hey, there she is. How have you been, Isilmir? Belisage sucks a deep breath through her teeth. That's it! I'm seeing a shift in his essence. Something's spreading and congealing. She glances at you over her scope. Keep talking. He seems to respond to you. What brought you here? Cracking bones and voices high and higher. That warm molasses feeling that creeps down your guts when crisis is nigh. Perfetto, we have flares of a totally distinct essence. She jots shorthand notes onto the pages next to her and turns one clicking knob of her scope. Now, try to get the two of them talking. Iselmir, tell Aloth why you've awakened. Why, he's the one needed me, hiding in his own bone bag like a turtle in his shell. Aloth's face twisted in fury. I never turned it over to you. Good, yes, very good. She rests from her scribbling, only to make another adjustment to her scope. I can now see two separate patterns of essence, where he ebbs, the other flows. It's as if the awakened soul fills the space that he leaves empty. She prompts you with a circling of her wrist, will still in her hand. Go on. Aloth, what's this about ceding space to Iselmir? He grits his teeth painfully. I've given her nothing. She usurps me in my own body. Aye, and I lent him a pair too. You should ask what I did in that old man of his. And the last time he laid a hand on us, I broke it in 3 pieces. Aloth's head jerks to the side. That wasn't your decision. It's never been your decision. Mine was awakening, but now I'm stuck with you, and damned if I let you ninny and drag us both to the scupper. Ah, very good. She lowers her scope and consults her notes. I think I finally got something we can work with. I've tracked Isilmir's essence throughout the exchange. She had a particularly high density index during the most heated portions of their argument, and her essence seemed to localize most clearly in the lower portions of the subject's left rib cage. That's right around the spleen, which of course means that she is triggered by black bile. No doubt the subject's characteristic melancholy is to blame. Aloth blinks back at you, and in the midst of his perturbation, you're not quite sure what's looking out of his eyes. That's utter horseshit. Zagani's eyes are wide and innocent. It does seem as though she got one thing right. She glares at him. Yes, never mind my years of training. I suppose you have a better explanation? Iselmir manifests when Aloth is in danger or under pressure. Belisige carefully scratches her jaw, her gaze darting between you and Aloth. I suppose that could be true. She jots another note. I'll have to check this against other research. He removes the copper bands. Well, and good for you, but what does that mean for me? Belisige frowns at her notes, tapping her cheek with a quill and making a grand show of concentration. However, you catch her stealing a glance at you over the pages. It seems that Iselmir steps in when she determines that you're in danger. It's not clear yet whether this is a help or a hindrance. From my position, I'd say it's pretty clearly a hindrance. I've got a lot of to process. Regardless, thank you for your help, Alinar. He does not look at Belisage. She sets her notes on her desk and returns to her scope. Well, I hope this has been as useful to you as it has been to me. I finally have material worth publishing. You'll be the toast of Reveroth, Ventrialoth. His grimace melts into a crooked smile. Aye, advancing the right-wise principles of animancy. Just what you've always wanted. Actually, wait, that was Iselmir, wasn't it? Aye, advancing the right-wise principles of animancy. Just what you've always wanted. As you turn to leave, you catch a darting movement out of the corner of your eye. Belisage is humming to herself, still occupied with her scope, but Aloth is holding her notes. He's just about to tuck them into his cloak when he catches you watching. He holds the finger to his lips, his eyes wise and imploring. Please, I don't want my personal information published like this, especially not after her nonsense. Huh. On one hand, this is something that is clearly very private to him. On the other hand, he did ask for help, and given the situation he's in... Let's go with this. No, you get your explanation and she gets her research. That was the deal. He slides the papers back onto the desk, giving you a rueful look. I'm not gonna help you explain this one, scholar boy. I'm not gonna help you explain this one, scholar boy. Alrighty.
Yeah?
That's one thing dealt with. I wonder if Aloth will have anything interesting to say once we get further in. Wonder who's over this way. Ah, Modred. An animancer scribbles feverishly on a parchment scroll while his free hand dances through the air, counting off unseen objects. His lips move in silent discourse. As your shadow falls over his scroll, he looks up at you with mingled perplexity and irritation.
Good day to you.
Can I help you? He forces a polite smile. Does the name Helig mean anything to you? Modric starts. Helig? Is a colleague of mine. He was primarily a necromancer, but he was involved in animancy too. He worked at the sanitarium for several years. I dare say everyone here has heard of him. He left his post recently. I believe he was seeking new opportunities in the Valen Republic. He leans forward. The advances they're making in animancy really are quite remarkable. Surely you've heard? Perhaps you haven't. Do you know a woman named Ronia? No, I don't get out of the sanitarium much. About Helig. As I said, he no longer works here. I've heard it differently. He slides his spectacles down his nose. Just what are you insinuating? If this is your idea of a joke, I assure you, it's in very poor taste. So you didn't sink a blade into his chest and dump him in the catacombs? He'll be relieved to hear it. How could... He sighs and runs a hand over his hair. Very well. Yes, I killed him. I killed that beast because nobody else had the spine for it. It was a madman. Years of perverse experiments, twisting healthy souls, torturing damaged souls, and for what? He flayed the essence from Glanfath and indigents for his amusement. He waves down the hall. If the public had known half of his deeds, they'd have razed this place to the ground. He jams his finger on the desk. He used the sanitarium to disguise his own sick proclivities. He brought shame on all of us and put the entire discipline at risk. I regret nothing. Anyway, now you know the whole grisly story. Helig's soul returned to its corpse through sinister magic. He wants revenge. No doubt. He spreads his hand wide, but now you understand why I killed him. Why someone had to. If he sent you, I can convince you to return and slay him once and for all. He has something I need. You've considered a deal with that monster? He put his hand to his head to his hands. If what I've told you hasn't swayed you, I doubt anything will. I must return to my work. I wish you well.
Hello.
Helig said you stole a grimoire from him. Mordred's brow furrows. His grimoire? What's that madman been telling you? He says you kept it in that trunk over there. You've been misled. There's no grimoire here, and Helig never intentioned you to find one. That wretched thing has an insatiable hunger for blood. Thank you for denying him. I hope I can convince you now to return and slay him once and for all. I'll finish him. Good. I'm glad someone finally will. I must return to my work.
Greetings.
What are you working on? My area of focus is wicts, more specifically how to cure them. What is that? A Hollowborn who received a transplanted animal soul during infancy, one of Animancy's early efforts to cure the legacy, if not a successful one. He removes his spectacles and wipes his brow. They show signs of developmental abnormalities throughout their childhood, but when they reach adolescence they become aggressive, feral, but still victims in need of care. Transplanting animal souls into children seems like an odd solution. We Animancers were trying to do something about the crisis, better than letting it swallow a generation of children. He stares at a fixed point on the far wall, and despite the controversy, it only went so far because at first it seemed to work. People called it the salvation. Children that had never been responsive to any kind of stimuli suddenly seemed aware of their surroundings, of their families. He takes a slow breath. The complications don't begin until puberty, but that's when the incompatibilities between body and soul take shape. Children become violent, ravenous. But we paid dearly from our mistake, I promise you. Angry mobs hunted down Animancers and burned down their homes, with them still inside often as not. People took to calling it the cruel salvation, and many still loathe us for it. But we wanted to stop the legacy as much as anyone. The public begged for our help, and we did the best we could. Still don't know if that absolves us. Why do you study wits? What kind of question is that? Just think of all the families that could be healed, the lives that could be restored. What could be more important? His face is reddened, and he turns away from you for a moment. Animancy has an answer here. I know it. It's simply a matter of working it out. Has anything unusual been happening around here? You must be joking. This is the sanitarium. Nothing is unusual down here. Although, now that I think of it, the patients seem more agitated lately. But they're Cade Menezo's responsibility, not mine. So you killed him to save your own reputation? The reputation of the whole discipline, rather. You realize there are groups in this city looking for an excuse to have us all hanged. I won't see the knowledge we've worked so hard for lost because of one man's madness. He used the sanitarium to disguise his own sick proclivities. He brought shame on all of us, and put the entire discipline at risk. Hardly brave stabbing a man in his sleep. Brave enough for my taste. I heard a rumor he once laid a 50-man squad to rest on his own. At least I did something. More agitated than usual, huh? As expected, can't get in there. Sanitarium guards. Who might you be?
Hail and well met.
A young Orlan woman traces her fingers along the spine of the books in front of her, row by row. Her motions quick and skittish, like a bird's. She does not notice you until you are nearly upon her. Oh my, you startled me. Are you supposed to be in here? What do you do here? I mostly help Master Azo set up and clean his equipment. I also keep his office organized since he's too busy to do it himself. If there's nothing else, I need to get back to work. I'm investigating any suspicious activity in the sanitarium. Oh, I'm just Master Azo's assistant. He'd know more about that, but he's in the middle of an busy with some patients. You won't be able to see him until he comes out from the patient's ward. How do I get into the patient's ward? Only Master Azo has access. I guess Head Warden Ethelmora does too, but he's, a statue now. Is Azo busy with patients, or is he running some sort of experiment? I'm just an assistant. It's not my place to gossip. I'm sorry. Curiouser and curiouser. Edges of the cage are dented with scored with claw marks. Alright, I better get back upstairs and talk to the lord of the house, as it were. Alrighty.
How do you do?
Have you learned anything of interest? Maybe. Is Cademan Azo running experiments on the patients here? Experiments? Cademan Azo is in charge of patient welfare now. He's not authorized to run any more experiments. I am disappointed in Cademan. I hoped he would be the one to guide your inquiry. He'll be in his office or in the patient's ward. I am granting you immediate access so you can find him. No doubt you will wish to speak to him further on this matter, and I, for one, am curious as to what he might have to say. Tread carefully in the wards. There are a few dangerous cases. I would also ask that you do your best to not agitate the patients. They have enough troubles as it is. Oh boy. The plot freaking thickens. Why do I get the feeling there's going to be combat if I'm not careful? Why do I get the feeling there's going to be combat if I am careful? Well, as Isilmir would say, let's have it out! I'm assuming that's Isilmir talking. The head warden says you can go in there. Be careful in there. Flesh construct. A curved spine twists this woman's posture forward, her greasy hair draped over her large eyes like vines. She smiles at you. You must be visiting someone. Then, noting your appearance, she adds, a friendly visit, I hope. What do you know about this animance? Let's see. Have any of the patients been acting unusual? Well, there's Batixa, who relives a murder she committed more than 5 lifetimes ago. Edelman, who they say only has half a soul, and who was found collecting the faces of others because he believed his own to be a false one. Graham, he speaks in a language no one understands and wails at night sometimes, different from their normal behaviors, I mean. Well, yes, I suppose, but nothing they didn't volunteer for. Master Azo let us know that a number of patients in the North Ward have volunteered for a new therapy and would be escorted to his laboratory to receive treatment. The North Ward has our most troubled cases. I'm glad some of them have chosen to get help. It seems to me it's gotten quieter over there since it started. Because they're dead, or because of something else? It's Graham I see them taking in the most. He struggles, but he always was a bit of a wild one. Would I be able to visit the North Ward? They like to keep them separate. I don't know that I've ever seen the guards allow visitor. Just ask Master Azo. You might ask him. He's very sympathetic. Why are you in here? Behind her hair, her cheeks flush. I don't want to say. You'll think less of me. I wouldn't worry about that. These last few years haven't been kind to me. They haven't been kind to anyone, really. I try not to think of it as personal. I lost my husband and both boys in the Saints' War. My daughter, the legacy took her before she was ever mine. I made do. What else can you do? I moved into a tiny place in Andra's gift, got by mending clothes and on the kindness of strangers when I had to. But I was surviving and the gods were watching over me. I could live with that. Then one day this noble woman comes in, wants this fancy gown fixed. Gorgeous thing, this shade of blue I'd never seen before. Only I had. I had looked at it and it reminded me of something. I had what they called an awakening. I remember being a noble woman myself in another life. People doting on me, over me. Men doting over for me. Me, the best food, the most beautiful home, all the things you'd never dare to dream of. They were mine. It was poison knowing that. All those things I had that I'll never have in this life, it did something to me. My food started to taste rotten. The walls of my little room seemed to close in around me. I stopped being able to sleep in my own bed. So here I came. It was not to break into an estate and start ordering servants around. It seemed like such a silly thing to worry about. You don't have to tell me, but I can get past it. But I can't get past it. And I start to wonder, did the gods choose this life for me? And if so, what terrible thing must I have done to deserve it? Nobody deserves to go through what you've gone through. I hope not. I can't even imagine the monster who deserves what half the patients here go through every day. Do you know where I might find Azo? I think I've seen him around today. Have you checked the laboratory? It shares a wall with his office. He's been spending most of his time there lately. What do you know about Azo? Oh, I like him very much. Many animancers could care less about their patients, look at us like vermin for their experiments. But Master Azo treats us like humans, even the very sick. You can tell he does this to help people. He's helped me understand a great deal about myself, and I know he's done the same for others. It's too bad what they did to him. He hides it well, but I know he's still affected by it. What happened to Azo? Frail's eyes dart back and forth, and her voice lowers to just above a whisper. They don't like to talk about it, but there was an accident. He was said to be one of the brightest in Deerwood. That was his reputation here, and that was what brought me to seek treatment. People say it was ego that drove him to try and solve the legacy, but that's hogwash, even if he was a bit of a showman. He loves his homeland. He thought he could help. He wasn't one to speak of his work. I suspected his colleagues might have tried to steal it, but he told me once that he had figured out a way to create a soul. Not a soul exactly, mind you. How did he put it? A proxy, I think he called it? He had some machine that drew energy out of the very ether. Can you imagine? The point is, he was going to help with the legacy. It was going to make the Hollowborn into something easier to love and care for. Gods know, that's something we need. Do you know what they call those empty little babies in Andra's gift? No, tell me. They call them buoys, because so many of them are found floating face down in the water. These are mad times. Anyway, Master Azo had scheduled a public demonstration of his work in Copper Lane. He was so excited. And then the next day he was locked in his office. Turned away visitors, I heard, and he stopped seeing patients. I don't know exactly what happened, and I don't have the heart to ask him. But I'm glad they're letting him treat people again. Flesh construct. Crooked chalk tally marks cover the surface of this table. Probably a similar story here. The crooked boards show deep gouge marks. They're spaced like folk or elven fingernails. Oh man, this is gonna get ugly if I'm not careful. Something churns and bubbles in this tank. Azo, that was fast.
I'll have it in no time.
Sure, why not?
The work of a moment.
What's this? Whoa, not bad. A round-faced, balding man turns to face you. His upper lip is pulled upward slightly by his pointed nose, exposing his upper teeth when he scowls.
What is the meaning of this?
Ethelmore told me you're not supposed to be doing any more experiments. Yes, well, Ethelmore hasn't done much good for anybody since he had his soul moved to an inanimate object, so I fail to see why I should let that sway me. If Animancers all followed the commands of their leaders, where would we be? We'd all be as backward and willfully ignorant as Redteras. We would know nothing about life or death or even ourselves. We would be lost in the dark with no clue as to why. Our leaders guide us, and without them we risk losing our way. If this man would strike off on his own, then let him fend for himself, without the benefits of the sanitarium. Surely there are other paths that don't involve risking lives.
Indeed. Many lives have been spent in such pursuits, writing treatises and poems. But tell me this, how does one verify the truth of a poem? If some philosopher stumbled across the meaning of our existence, how would we know it from a false one? These are wasted lives. In Animancy there is progress. We are measurably closer to complete understanding because of our work. And that will be true until our work is complete. Who will solve Widewen's legacy? Some church? Some warrior? It will be an Animancer, or it will be no one at all.
Have you tried your experiments on any other subjects? I have, yes. No point in lying about it now that Ethelmore is involved. I asked for volunteers from our patients and a few brave souls came forward. I was very close at one time to a breakthrough. They understood that. They understood their sacrifices would mean something. I heard you were demoted. How did that happen? Azo's nostrils flare and he bares his upper teeth more broadly. That's none of your concern. Did one of the others put you up to this? Oddmer? That smug weasel. Things went wrong. Everything. I don't know how. I'll never know. He spits on the floor as if to remove a bitter taste from his mouth. I'd like to access the North Ward. Out of the question. Those patients are in isolation for a reason. I've been given permission to conduct my investigation down here. You'd better cooperate.
My answer is no. Whatever you're looking for, those patients will not be able to help you. The head warden will stand by me on this.
Something churns and bubbles in the tank. Okay, before we go getting ourselves into combat, let's consult the statue one last time, and with any luck, he'll give the go-ahead to allow us in there. If not, I actually get to have some combat this session. It's actually kind of nice though. Sometimes it'll be all combat,
Good
sometimes...
day to you.
Crap. Okay, I guess I'm getting some combat this section. Oh man, it's actually been interesting, because sometimes there'll be basically very little role-playing, but a lot of combat. Sometimes it'll be almost no combat. Honestly, it's been really good so far. I've been really enjoying this game. This has been a fascinating web to untangle, just trying to figure out where everything stands and how I could be, well, how I can be most useful. Trying to figure out how exactly to go about this. And honestly, it's probably serendipitous that I chose the mercenary background, all things considered. So thus far, a lot of patience, a bunch of flesh constructs. That must be the North Ward. This ought to be interesting. No one in here? Nah. I don't see any reason to steal money.
Hey there.
Lockpicks. I don't think anyone will need those. Proper key. Is there anything over this way that I missed? No, just some broken stairs.
What is it now?
I wonder if I can find the key anywhere.
Greetings. Welcome.
Welcome.
Nah. Okay, so how do I get in there to do this? Yep, you're not the one I need to speak to.
Hail and well met.
Good day to you.
Did I put myself in an unwinnable situation? I hope I didn't. So let's go back through this. Let's look around for that key then. Note from Azo?
I'll have it in no time.
Do it.
The work of a moment.
Alright, let's look through these. Ripley, I require more copper tubing for my next experiment. Do not requisition it from the sanitarium stores. I don't have time to deal with the head warden's inevitable questions. Let's see. Batixa, the pale lady. Let's see. What's this? Oh dear, there were a lot of dropped frames all of a sudden. Yeah, looks like everything's fine stream-wise. Okay, we're good. Let's see. Subject is female, mid-40s. Awakened to a past life as a serial murderer, which now frequently emerges as the soul's dominant personality. Subject vacillates between a violent and severe depression resulting from guilt of past deeds. Weak candidate for present research. Subject is a male, approximately early 30s. Power of speech absent, presumably as a result of the overfragmentation of his soul. As such, he is the ideal subject for present research. However, experimentation has caused severe pain and induced panic, I have had to enlist the aid of the guards in transporting it for more recent procedures. Delman, the Midnight Man. Subject is male, mid-20s. Displays this acute dissociation and paranoid delusional tendencies, causing anger and extreme violence. Dangers of working with the subject preclude possibility of further use in present research. Subject is male, approximately 17 years of age. Admitted for episodes of catatonia, followed by occasional violent outbursts. Initial analysis of soul revealed severe fragmentation and essence deficiency. Said deficiency all but eliminates the possibility of using the subject in present research. Let's see if I can confront him over these notes.
What is it?
Nah, doesn't look it. However, I may be able to take them to someone else.
Welcome.
Nope. Where is that key? It's not the thing I don't have high enough mechanics for, is it? Ah, hell, that's probably it, isn't it? Am I gonna have to let this sit?
I'll see what I can do. I'll have it in no time.
That is. Is there something I can give Aloth to bolster his mechanics briefly? Well... Whoops, that's too far back. Looks like these are more... So that seems to be more for combat, but us. But I suspect that what I need is in there, which means I suspect that I can't make any progress yet until I'm able to retrieve that key. Because I'm pretty sure that I've opened literally everything else that I can in here, and because I haven't been working. Actually, wait. Couldn't I go to an inn and retrain someone? In theory, I could retrain Aloth to have him focus more on mechanics instead of lore. I don't know how expensive that would be, but that might be worth a shot. Although that might require me to go back to Defiance Bay. Well, to Cape Nua.
Hail, traveler!
I know that there is a possibility of retraining people, but I can't remember the exact method by which we do it. Unfortunately, I suspect that unless I can find a way to get that key, that's a dead end. So let me check real quick in here. Maybe I have to go to a tavern for it.
Well, whatever happens, at least we're out of that mud hole, Gilded Vale. I grew up in Gilded Vale. Quaint. That's what I meant to call it. You had it right.
Marble is cool and perfectly smooth. Droplets of crystal clear water bead the surface. There isn't so much a spot on these oranges. Interesting. What is that? Oh, sugar. Alright, that's to house. Alright, so that's that house. You see a burly man inspecting a dilapidated inn. The Omawa salesman almost dwarfing him as they walk through the once proud establishment. The walls are rife with stains and only Whale knows what else smeared on every available surface. Not one thing stands unbroken, and moth-eating blankets, rotten food, and trash give evidence to a succession of squatters. The man frowns, scrutinizing the space. The Omawa gives him a final offer, flashing 2 white teeth with each symbol, oversized and threatening. With a sigh and a jingle as he hands over the coin pouch, the man acquires the dump of an inn, and begins to plan. You see this man kneeling naked before a dais in the center of a large round room. Across the room, opposite from where he kneels, stands a large throne. The throne's back and 2 of its legs are broken, rendering it unusable and causing it to tilt precariously on its stand. The room is ringed with figures clad in black robes, each chanting quietly, resulting in a low drone that pervades the room. On the dais across the brazier is another robed figure holding a leather-bound book with charred marks on it. He is speaking to the naked man about fealty, dedication, and law. When he finishes, he bids the others to rise and holds the book out to him over the burning coals in the brazier. The naked man nods, and the robed man drops the book into the fire. The naked man drops to one knee, briefly pressing his forehead to the side of the brazier, then stands and thrusts both of his hands into the coals at the bottom of the brazier. He retrieves the book, slowly presenting it to the robed figure before him. The man rubs his thumb on the ash that has collected on the cover of the book, and uses it to draw a mark on the naked man's forehead, over the burned flesh. The naked man bows his head and whispers, "Was that right, Da?" The robed man nods patiently. The naked man looks to the broken throne with childlike eyes. "Did you see that, Mum?" Curious. Makes you wonder how much of this may end up tying into something else. You see a lush forest, quiet and dark in the early morning light. This woman walks through the trees, a captivated look on her face. She doesn't appear to have a particular destination in mind as she wanders slowly between the enormous trunks, looking up through the branches and occasionally making a low chirping sound. When a responding chirp echoes through the quiet morning, she turns to head in that direction, obviously not concerned with losing her way. A loud metallic snap followed by a quick yelp cuts through the air, and she looks to it, focusing in the direction from which the sound came. She moves toward it, on the verge of running. She seems to realize suddenly that caution is important and freezes, looking down, her foot hovering over the pressure plate on a well-hidden bear trap. She leans back and gingerly places her foot back on the ground next to the trap. She looks around, anger darkening her features. Grabbing a nearby branch, she presses down on the plate to disarm the trap. When it snaps shut, she hears another yelp, this time much closer. Scanning the ground for more traps, she carefully makes her way toward the trapped animal. Rounding one of the trees, she spies him, a large wolf, bony with malnourishment, right hind leg held tight in the rusty metal teeth. He looks at her, and a low growl starts in the back of his throat. His hackles rise, and she pauses briefly to let him catch her scent. She lowers herself closer to the ground and holds her hands out, palms down in front of her. "Aren't you a beautiful boy?" She inches toward the wolf. You see a dark room. Noise filters in through a nearby doorway. The sounds of battle, scuffling, metal on metal, cries of pain, rise and fall as a fight rages on outside. There is a bellow of rage and a Zorip runs into the room, holding a book tightly against its chest. It looks around frantically, searching for something. It hurries to the far side of the room and opens a box sitting on a makeshift table. It places the book in the box, closes it, and then bends over to push the box under the table. A small stone hits the back of the Zorip's head, knocking it forward a little. The stone bouncing to the ground, rattling a little as it comes to rest on the floor next to the Zorip's foot. Wouldn't it be better to say bounces to the ground? It freezes in place, hands still in the box, eyes wide. As the clattering of the stone quiets, silence takes control of the room again. The battle outside has stopped. It spins around to find this woman standing in the doorway, leaning on a savage-looking two-handed sword. "That book contains the answers I need," she snarls at it, moving forward. It hisses, rushing to meet her. Seconds later, she is retrieving the stone from the floor, having separated its head from its neck with a practiced flick of the sword. She smiles, kisses the stone, and then places it on a pouch in her belt, patting it fondly. Leaning over, she pulls the box from under the table and opens it, elated with her find. As expected, a tavern. The young elf is dressed in gaudy robes that he seems ready to cast off. He picks at a heavily brocaded sleeve and continually adjusts a golden chain around his neck. He looks up at you. "Did she send you to run me out of town? You can tell her I'm not going anywhere without that medallion." "I told Cyril that I wouldn't let her sell it. If that's what you hear about, then save yourself the trouble." He puffs up his chest but glances about the exit. "What are you talking about?" "If you have to ask, then you're obviously not here to shake me down. Cyril's a courtesan over at the Salty Mast in Andra's Gift. We've been working together for over a year now. I find a noble with more money than sense, fill him up with liquor, and send him her way. They have a good sign, then Cyril takes her fee, and a little extra." He rubs his fingers together. 100 coppers here, a trinket there. It's a bounty for us, and these lords and ladies never notice anything missing. That's dishonest. It's surviving. He points a finger and one ruby ring catches the light. If those nobles have more wealth than they can hang on to, why should they keep it? Anyways, we always split the bounty. Until a week ago. He squeezes his lips into a tight frown. She takes the necklace off of some noble. It's an Ingwithan medallion, damn near priceless. The relic is sacred to my clan, but she won't part with it for any sum I could afford. He tugs at the gold chain around his neck, and even if I wanted to, I can't go home without it. That's a hard thing. Tell me more about your situation. What do you want to know? What makes this medallion so important to you? I grew up in Glanfath with the Shattering Spear clan. We Glanfathans have protected Ingwithan ruins for thousands of years. It's the one duty the gods asked of us in exchange for the freedom to live as we please. He fidgets with an emerald ring on his pinky. The treasure hunters looted the ruins in our territory, and we left the wilds we dwelled in for generations. Most of my clanmates scattered to towns around the Deerwood and probably live on crusts of bread. He looks at his embroidered robes with disgust. Restoring this medallion to the ruins would earn us the gods' forgiveness. The Shattering Spear could go home. This is all rather fascinating. A single medallion to earn the gods' favor and so return home? It rather reminds me of a story I heard. Somewhere. Is it your story? Tell me about Sorel. She's a courtesan at the Salty Mast over an Andra's gift. She wasn't born to much, but she's done what she has to in order to escape that. He gazes at a string of amber beads around his waist. She's a good friend. He folds his arms in his trailing, wrinkled sleeves. Without her, I'd probably be living hand to mouth like the rest of the Shattering Spear. But this isn't about her or me. It's about the 40 people in my clan and the way of life we've held onto for generations. You seem like you've done well enough for yourself. He clenches his heavily adorned hands. It was this or scrape by in the gutters like the rest of my clan. But I'd give it all for that medallion. I offered to, but it's worth more than anything I've got, and Cyril knows it. I still don't understand why you can't take your money and return to our Glanfath. He sighs, arching his neatly plucked eyebrows. Of course I could, but that's not the point. A community isn't a place. It's a connection to history and meaning. He makes circles with his wrists, like an anchor. Defending the ruins for the gods gave us a purpose. Without that, we're adrift. Does that make any sense to you? Yes. He smiles and nods slowly. Then you know what it's like. How to care for something you can't explain. So, will you help me get the medallion? May as well. You'll find her at the Salty Mast. The only way anyone sees her these days is by paying, so they have to go through Maya. He fidgets with his sleeve. But whatever you do, please don't hurt her. I have a bad feeling about this. Let's follow it through anyway. A theater? Most unfortunate tale of Fabia and Burnett.
Greetings.
The man is dressed in neat but functional clothes. His sun-wrinkled skin and limber musculature reflect a life spent in the wilderness. Well met. What brings you to the Charred Barrel? Is this your place? It's my retirement. He thumps the bar. Used to be a warehouse back when Brackenbury saw more ship traffic, but it fell out of use when the area became mostly residential. I inherited it from some great uncle who's never had any luck pawning it off on my cousins. Now it's the most popular spot in Brackenbury. The nobles come to unwind, and kith from other districts come to mingle. He leans closer. We've got a few rough types too, but they behave in here. Besides, their coin's as good as anyone else. Who are you? I was a cartographer for the Duke for decades. He rubs his neatly stubbled chin. Crossed the White March half a dozen times and mapped most of the ruins of Thane Bog. He grins, flashing a gold tooth. A good career, but one suited to younger men. When I came back to Defiance Bay for good, Cliver and a few other friends in the Knights helped me get the right to refurbish this place. There's strong ale, quality entertainment, and a fresh sea breeze too. What more could a man want? So, am I willing to do that? Let's quick save before I do. Just in case I mess something up. Okay. Actually, is there another thing I should go for? Actually, that might be more useful if I'm gonna have you keep using that. Okay, what if I leveled up the other guy? Quick save, quick save. Where's my quick save? I wonder what the other guy's skills look like. So I'm trying to remember what Aloth looked like.
Greetings.
Okay, so what if I retrain Durance? Oh, that's even worse. Okay, it looks like Aloth is my best bet then. Unless I want to put the focus elsewhere. I mean, who else do I have in my party really that could work well when it comes to... Alternatively, I could get a rogue of some... I could hire a rogue of some kind to handle it for me. Whoops, that's not the right thing. Yeah, I'm starting to think that that might be my best option. Although the problem is that, well...
Well met, friend.
Let's go ahead and redo it for Aloth, see what I can make work with this. Next level? Oh, I get 2. Yeah. There we go. That gets him up to that mechanics level. And then, what's this do? Damage reduction bypass? Well, I'm not using Grimoire Slam all that much, so I may as well. There we go, I can... May as well bolster that a little bit. Arcane Dampener. Oh yeah, Fireball. Gotta take that. That should be fine. Actually, do I want to give you 1 point in survival? Yeah, 1 point. Just to give you a bit of damage reduction. And then utility. I think I gave you something useful out of this. Unfortunately, there's a lot of these in here.
Hey there.
So now that I've done that, I should be able to open things that...
You must...
I should have an easier time opening things now that I've done that. I don't need to rest yet, so there's no point doing that there. And I can always double back to check out other things as well. Besides, it seemed that there was plenty of activity in there. Because honestly, my voice is starting to give out, so I think what I'll do is I will attempt to wrap up things in here, see if it's even possible to do so. And then once that I have seen to that, I just hope my suspicion is correct. Although, to be fair, ensuring that I'm able to open stuff with higher mechanics, that'll do me good in the long run. That will do me good in the long run. Now, let's go back in there and hope that I'm correct.
I'll see what I can do. The work of a moment.
Crap, my suspicions were incorrect. So
Sure.
how do I resolve this then? I didn't create an unwinnable scenario for myself, did I? How do I get that key? Wonder why this isn't counted as stealing. I don't get it. What am I supposed to do here? What am I missing? What am I missing?
What is it?
I'll take a peek.
Unless there's a secret way in. Which I doubt. Yeah, I know I'm seen. That's not the point of this. That just looks suspicious. There's gotta be a secret compartment or something. Yet. And yet, and yet, and yet. What am I missing? I don't know. Unless I got the key somehow without realizing it. Well, if the key's not down here, maybe it's upstairs somewhere, but I'm trying to think, where would it be? The problem is I'm not getting any more dialogue options to where I could get it. Did I make a mistake with my dialogue options? Might be at the point where I'm tempted to look things up, but I really don't want to do that for this game.
Gods keep you.
Welcome.
What am I missing? What am I missing? Okay, at this point, I really do just need to know if I messed this up. So, what's the quest called? Journal. The man who waits. So... how do I get to there? trying to think, what could work? I need to somehow get him to give me the key. But I'm not sure how.
Hey there.
How do I get the key? Oh. Huh. So while I was wandering around, that completed, huh? Let's see, what should I set to work? I don't know what kind of benefit would be gained from the laboratory, but... Wait, why am I sneaking?
Hey there.
What is it now?
So it says I need to talk to Wazo for the key, but I don't see a way that I can get the key from him, unless I somehow acquired the key without realizing it, which I doubt. Nope.
Yeah?
What is it now?
Oh my gosh, I'm a moron. I am an absolute bloody moron. On 4K, well, not 4K, but you get the point. I've seen your records. I know what you're doing with them.
Those are private. You have no right.
He balls up his fist and digs his teeth into his index finger, a growl simmering beneath his breath and a deep scowl compressing his face.
Fine. Speak to them for all the good it'll do you. I'm sure the discussions will be fascinating.
He pulls a heavy key from one of his pockets and nearly slams it down on the floor before handing it to you.
Hey there.
Yep. Now the fun begins, I suspect. Thundering This man has the look in his eyes of a hunted animal, and as you approach, he staggers backward to the far corner of his cell, halfway appearing as though he would climb the walls if it would get him farther away from you. He cries out, a bizarre primal utterance like nothing you have heard. I need to ask you some questions. Graham looks at you blankly. It is unclear whether he understands you or not, but his panic has momentarily subsided. He opens his mouth to speak, but the words that come out are half-formed, as though his tongue were cut out. They are impossible for you to discern, if they indeed are words at all. The mutilations of animacy, crueler than any torture to disfigure the soul. Let us return to the favor to the animancers of this shit heap. Azo ran experiments on you against his will, didn't he? He looks at you with uncertainty. Slowly, tentatively, he steps closer to the front of his cell. And as he does so, for the first time you can perceive his soul within your ken. It is misshapen, as though maimed by some jagged instrument, and large expanses of it has been gouged out entirely. You feel no barriers of resistance. If you wanted to, you could look further into Graham's soul. You project out toward the main soul in front of you, merging with it, its confusion and fear becoming yours as it whisks you into its depths. You're in your cell. A key turns. The door creaks open on neglected hinges. Thoughts come to you in waves, incomplete, broken, fearful. Standing at the door is a rotund, balding man. His upper teeth and pointy nose remind you of a rat. He beckons, apologetic. You don't want to go. Anything else. In your mind is a single word, and the word is no, but it dissolves before it reaches your lips. You press against the back wall, cornered. You cry out. In darkness, you fight against unseen restraints. You cannot move your arms or legs. The man walks into the room carrying a lit candle, its meager flame casting long shadows across books and machinery. Straps bind your arms and legs. Cold metal circumscribes the crown of your head and the breadth of your chest. The man is sorry. He is in need of raw materials. They dismantled his work, and he needs another source. He needs to show them he was right. He thanks you. Then he turns a knob, and you feel yourself begin to crack from within, and you can feel pieces of you torn away, like having your insides chewed by a horde of rats, and you are screaming a scream you can barely hear. Another night. Heavy footsteps outside your door. Coming for you. You look through a slit in your door. The flesh giant, the artificial being just outside, but facing left. Facing the end of the hall. The boy there. The boy looks with interest at the giant, then collapses to the floor like a shed snakeskin. The giant convulses for a moment, then rights itself, turns away, and leaves. Graham looks at you, still wide-eyed but somehow more present. He nods at you, and walks back toward the end of his cell.
Hey there.
Let's see. The road to Red Flower Lake turns out to be even more dangerous than the Elders of the Kind Wayfarers had expected. They believed that the attack against the Drem Delphar's funeral process had been carried out by ogres. Instead, Tarek and the Kind Wayfarer initiate discovered Eotens, twisted two-headed ogres of incredible size and ferocity. Recovering the paladins' bodies were costly, with 5 more initiates dying in the process. In the end, Tarek and 7 Kind Wayfarers reached Red Flower Lake. There, they held a service for Adrem Delphar, and the others that died to make their way to the summit. On the way back down, the initiates placed marked cairns along the trail to indicate where it had been cleared by the Kind Wayfarers, and at what cost. Salted Hands? What's that do? Oh, extra. Okay, a heal over time spell. Useful. And it can also be used to push someone away. Very nice.
These poor people. This isn't the treatment that they were promised upstairs by the cushioned seats and lush carpets. Is that the cure for soul sickness? To be thrown into a cell and subjected to the whims of your captor?
I doubt the wealthier citizens have the same experience. I'm sure they have their share of family members they'd rather forget. But if all were treated like this, the sanitarium would never survive. What did these patients do to warrant such conditions? How do I answer this? How do I answer this? Here's the source of all that knowledge you were so giddy about. Kana grimaces. It is one thing to be told as much, another to see it yourself. Let's be on our way. This place gnaws at the soul. A willowy adolescent boy stands in the center of his cell, gawkish and stoop-shouldered. He stands straight ahead. The occasional blink is only movement, and it is unclear whether he registers your presence at all behind his glassy, doll-like eyes. In this state, the barriers between your soul and his are thin and porous, easily bypassed if you should wish it. Not yet. Quick save first. You close your eyes and edge forward toward the boy's soul, and as you near, a sudden malaise comes over you. You are cold and warm all at once, sweating and shivering and straining for breath, as you did on the caravan journey. The soul you approach is the wrong one, a parasitic plant that strangles its host. It is predatory and pitiless, and you have crossed paths with it before. Too late does it occur to you to retract, and already you feel yourself plunging into some interminable abyss of thought and memory. You are now standing in a cell now, the same cell in the sanitarium. The halls are moonlit and empty, and you are waiting. At the far end of the ward, the door opens, revealing a flesh golem in silhouette beneath the stone archway. It makes its usual rounds, the same stops every time, the misbegotten child of the spawned creators. When the construct is close, you coil yourself up and spring forward, passing out of the boy's body as though it were a membrane. You can sense his body behind you, collapsing to the floor, a puppet whose strings are cut. You are rushing toward the golem now, bodiless as a gust of wind. Quickly you think to yourself, quickly, and you feel the strength hemorrhaging from your soul as you dart toward the makeshift abomination. You pass into the golem's shell, and overtake the soul implanted within, encircling it, suppressing it. And contained in this new vessel you are strong again. You step heavy-footed down the corridors, unheeded by the other constructs, and scrutinized only by the wary, untrusty eyes of the mad, coming at last to an office piled with books and scribbled papers and the perverse implements of animancy. You set your oversized hands upon a large machine, a nest of globes and tubes and coils in the center of the room, and go to work, bending wires and unsettling alignments. Your surroundings are pulled past you, or perhaps you are pulled past them, and they dissolve into a blur. When they settle into place again, you are outside on a clear day, standing in front of a crowd stacked high above you on the tiered seats of an amphitheater. You are acting for the crowd, standing deliberately still, but this is no play. A balding man with rodent-like features is strapping you to a machine, the one you had tampered with. You see your arms for the first time, short and fleshy, unmistakably those of a little girl, but this body is not truly yours. Your mind still holds the same determination, the same hard-heartedness as before. The body itself is cold and vacuous. Unlike the others, this one has no soul of its own. The man speaks and the crowd applauds with an enthusiasm worthy of a hero's entrance. "Bear witness," he says, and he pulls a lever. The machine shivers and sparks, and a bead of sweat rolls down the side of the man's brow. But the crowd's apprehension quickly gives way to awe as a crystal globe fills with a radiant mist that casts the entire theater aglow. He opens a valve and the globe crawls through a tube along a length of copper wiring that runs to a set of electrodes beneath your armpits. You feel nothing when it reaches you, as it should be, for what you have been leading his work astray periodically for some time, altering notes and settings and playing puppeteer for Hollowborn. But you make it look how people would expect it to look when a body is infused with a soul. In a moment, the machine goes dark, and the man unstraps you, eyeing you with a scientist's concern. He looks back up at the crowd. "Behold," he says, but there is obvious hesitation in his voice. Slowly, you take a prodding step forward, then another, and another. You look up at the man, giving him the eye contact of which no Hollowborn is capable, and the crowd gasps. The man looks relieved. "How do you feel?" he asks at a volume meant for the crowd, and this is the moment. At the top of your lungs, you let out a piercing shriek. The man comes towards you, his hands outstretched, but you run the other way, back to the machine. With all your strength, you drive your head into the crystal globe, and it shatters, streaking your head with warm blood. You drive your head down onto the surface of the machine again and again, drawing panicked screams from the crowd. And by the time the man reaches you, your body has already ceased proper function, and merely twitches on the cold ground. Satisfied, you depart the corpse in search of another unsuspecting host. Who could put their faith in animancy now? You are pulled again from your surroundings, transcending the boundaries of memories and lifetimes, deeper and deeper past betrayals and murders and lies upon lies that form the thick webbing of plots beyond mortal comprehension. You settle at last on a room you have never seen before, expansive, with a tall device encasing an Adra monolith at its center. The room is filled with people, and the people all look at the device. You are yanked suddenly back to reality, and the once catatonic boy in the center is looking directly at you, appraising, calculating. There is no mistake now that it is the soul of the man who has caused your awakening. It gazes out from that borrowed husk. Okay, I did not expect this to go this direction this soon. Oh boy, oh freaking boy, what is this? A watcher. I believe we share a common past. I'm just looking for some answers. Is that so? He makes no effort to hide his disinterest, but he continues to search your eyes. He makes a slight grunting noise, and his eyes soften for an instant, and it seems that for that moment that he recognizes you. He opens his mouth to speak, then seems to think better of what he has about to say. His jaw tightens. I know your look. You hunger. Hunger for answers that elude you. It gnaws at your soul. It usurps your reason for being. You are like everyone. I will help you let go. He dodges backward with a startling grace, pulling himself out of reach. On his face there is no malice, only the dispassion of a farmer putting down a sick animal. Then, suddenly, he slumps forward. Ah, crap. Time for combat. Wait, huh? Wait, is he tracing the flesh golem's back somewhere? Oh, that's pleasant. Oh, I get to fight everybody. That's great. Alright. Okay, this is a little too much attention. What can I do? What can I do? Well, let's go with the one thing that's useful. Oh geez, I'm taking 2 hits. There we go, that should keep me alive for a while. Ah man, the animal companion's already down. And you are in melee range. May as well accept that fact. And if you're in melee range too, you may as well accept that fact as well. Okay, what exactly is happening here? Alright, so Sagani's there. Ah, hell. I'm taking a lot of hits. Okay. Do this. Alright, that burning should help. Adair, what are you doing? Going after that crazed patient? Okay, so how about... Alright, so what's the real danger right now? Well, at least Pain's summoning spells still work. Oh jeez, I'm down. I took a lot of hits. Ah. Okay, we're good there. Now we just need to deal with these flesh constructs. Actually, if you're not in melee range anymore, go back to your bow and give this one a piercing shot.
My bow's ready.
Wait, what the heck? Okay.
Hey.
Okay, we survived that bout. Crap.
All right then.
Hey there.
These chains groan with added weight. Crescent blank marks pit the edges of the cot.
Sure.
Fucking reeks of awful. Oh,
sure.
Geez. Okay. Oh, this is gonna be fun. And now there's panic in the common area, I suspect. I hope I won't regret using my increased speed for this. Oh look, Flesh Golem. Alright, he's targeting a dare. I can live with that. Knock him down. We should be able to handle singular flesh constructs easily enough.
I shall deal with this one.
Alright, let him come out a little more than that. No, Adair. Alrighty. Never mind any background noise you might hear. Okay, there's no reason why you two have to be... Actually, you definitely want to be in melee range, but you get your Arbalest back up. Arquebus. Yeah. I want you in the back where you're less likely to be mauled. Alright, let him come out.
Hey.
Actually, if we've only got those two melee characters, yeah, if Futamaki is able to attack as well, we're good. Oh hey, the stun worked. Nice. Alright.
Sure.
We better find the mastermind here. Wait, he's not in this direction, is he? Eh. Probably the path of least resistance. Wait, what's this? It's telling me I need to set something in motion? Oh, taxes. It's probably just mentioning that. What have you done? You've been experimenting on patients against their wills, mangling their souls. I've witnessed it with my own eyes. Azo's face drains of what little color it had. How could you possibly? Look, it had to be done. Ethelmore and the others, they took everything from me. Everything when I was this close. I had to know where I failed and why. Imagine the value if I'd succeeded. I'd had something that could make all those hollow infants into something like a real person. And with a few more patrons and a few years' research, who knows? No one had come that close with the legacy. It's why I have to continue. Why I have to risk everything here working in secret. It's why you have to lie to Ethelmore for me. Tell him you've cleared me of all suspicion. No. Everybody's gonna know.
Then I can't let you get in my way either.
Well, that is unfortunate for you. You're just gonna have to die then. Yeah, you didn't stand a chance against us. Hopefully the notes in your journal will prove to be more fruitful. Another? A repeat of this note, just in case we didn't go through the research stuff. I'm close to a breakthrough. I've found an ample source of essence now, and the vessels have responded positively to infusion with the proxy. Human trials are the next logical course.
Sure.
Well, I guess I did get a little combat after all. And it's not quite done yet either. What are you doing? Get in
Hey
there.
Hey there.
Wait, the wicks have got out somehow. How? How the heck did that happen? Is everybody here gonna end up dead? I better make sure that this place is secure then. Oh, please tell me that's not what I think it is. Ow, scum. That knockdown ability is rough. Yeah, it looks like one of the guards.
Sure.
Jeez. This is madness.
I feel you.
Huh. Seems that Aloth is doing more damage with that now. Either that or I'm just noticing the higher damage numbers. Looks like I chose wisely when I respect him. Okay, but there's wicks over there. That's gonna make this. That's gonna make this troublesome. Luckily, they're pretty weak, so it's easy enough to deal with them. But still.
That's it.
Sure.
Another downed guard, huh? Better make sure there's no other trouble anywhere else. Well, I already went through that direction, so I guess all that remains now is to make sure that nothing escapes the sanitarium. Oh, that's a good sign. That's a very good sign. And of course you're here, hearing none of it. Head warden must be told what's going on down here. Getting out of here. It's not safe anymore. Oh boy. This sanitarium's gonna end up shut down at this rate. Oh boy. What the blazes happened down there? You were given permission to ask questions. It's complicated. A patient of yours, Uskrim, was working for the Leaden Key, only without knowing it. You finish your explanation, and Ethelmore breaks his silence. I have read accounts of people in history who could do what you describe. The accounts are few and brief and never reliable. Some go as far to suggest as they are all the same person. If truly such a person was here among us plotting our ruin, would that I had a body again and could be of some real use in our time of need. I fear what the future may hold for this place. I am grateful that you were able to dispatch the threat before there was loss of innocent life. We very nearly had another scandal on our hands. What of Azo? What part did his experiments play in the catastrophe? I confronted him and was forced to kill him. He groans in disgust. Such a waste. There was none more gifted working here. In time I had hoped to rehabilitate his image, but a mind like his, so full of ideas, leaves little room for patience. I would inquire more into the matter, but in truth you have done this institution a favor. Were his transgressions ever to reach the public, there would be a terrible uproar. I was blind to have trusted him a second time. His tone takes in an ominous quality that reverberates all around you. I trust you will be more cautious in future inquiries.
Greetings.
I guess that's the end of that. Where'd all the nobles go?
Hail, traveler.
Well... I guess that takes care of one of the main quests then. So, I guess in that case, I'll go ahead and set my starting position to... What is it? I'll set my starting position toward the inn for next... Oh, what's this? Oh dear, did I just go
Good
into...
day, stranger.
Beg your pardon, I have a message for you. You are summoned to Hadrid House, where Lady Webb wishes to meet with you as soon as possible. Not much you can do in these parts without Lady Webb knowing about it. At least that's what I've always heard. Guess it's true. How did you know where to find me? Well, it's Lady Webb. She knows everything. Tell me about her. Do you not know Lady Webb? Well, no one's seen her exactly in a long time, but she's the mistress of Dunrid Row. Has been for as long as anyone can remember. He pauses, eyeing passers-by with suspicion. Quietly, he continues. She's supposed to be old. Older than anybody. And she never leaves her room. Some say she's wasted away and she's just a pile of bones kept animated by dark magics. She's still at it, best anyone can tell. Learning things, keeping us safe, pulling the strings behind the throne too, it's said. Has a ring of ciphers doing her bidding, telling her everything that goes on. You do wrong in this country before you go ask the gods for forgiveness. Best you ask Lady Webb first. Where's Dunrid Row? A whole mess of ciphers run out of Hadrid House. They make it their business to keep the peace, but they don't like you to see them do it. Problems in the city have a way of going away on their own. And when that happens, you can make a pretty good guess as to why. Where can I find Hadrid House? Just over there, my lord. Southwest corner of Brackenbury. You'll find the lady upstairs. Well, I guess I've got one last thing to see to before... Oh, no. You again! As you near the apparition, you are overcome suddenly by a powerful anxiety that sits like a stone in your stomach. The feeling is not quite real. The recollection of an emotion rather than the emotion itself. It wrenches you inside, nevertheless. The apparition's brow is tensed, a look of concern plain across its face. The other
missionaries say you have been neglectful of your duties.
My mind has been elsewhere.
Oh? And what troubles you?
The pain in your stomach deepens, and you feel for a moment as though you are about to be sick. Your mouth has gone dry. Forgive me, Eminence. I wish to leave the order. The man folds his fingers together and presses them to his mouth, thoughtful.
You have been an apt student, and your convictions have inspired those around you. May I ask what has changed to make you feel this way?
The people we intended to convert. They committed unspeakable acts, sacrifices, mutilations. The apparition exhales slowly, and its lips press together, a sympathetic rapture in its eyes. It places its hands on your shoulder.
These are the ways of the heathen world.
Surely the gods would do better to destroy us all and start anew.
Perhaps they would. It may come to that one day. This is why we must not fail. The heathens are beyond the gods' reach. They do not know better. We are tasked with delivering them to the gods, so that the gods may heal their souls.
Is such a thing possible?
I have seen it with my own eyes. You will see it too, if you choose to remain. There is no greater calling than the one we have chosen. Neither words, nor wealth, nor battle will end this suffering. Only the gods. Will you give them that chance?
The knot in your stomach seems to loosen all at once, and the anxiety is replaced with something else entirely. Something warm and soothing, and it is something you know you can never repay. As the vision fades, you start to become cognizant of the many odd looks aimed in your direction. Your last response echoes in your mind. I will. Curious. Also, when did you get here? I didn't see you. You know what? I'll see to you later. I want to resolve this quest. Well, I want to see what this quest line has to say before anything else. Although I get the feeling that... Yeah, let's pull on the string first before we carry on. Actually, I do want to be here for other stuff anyway. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to pull on this thread yet. I'm going to let this be my starting point for the next stream, because honestly... I want to see where this is going, but honestly, wrapping up that whole business is probably enough for now. So, oh, this is another main quest item too. Oh boy. I've got a lot to see to, don't I? But yeah, it's starting to get a bit much so, and since that I've been going at this for a while and can definitely feel that in my voice, feel now would be a good time to stop, so this is where I'll be calling it for today. So next week, or whenever I can find the time for this, hopefully Wednesday, but we'll have to see how far I can get with the next video, I will be setting out once again. Start here, see what this the Hermit of Hadrit House has to say for herself. In the meantime, thank you all for watching. Hope this has been entertaining. Let me just make sure that the save is put into place. Alrighty, we're good. So, thank you all for watching. I'll see you all next time.